can be smart and wise.
Are we finished eating?
Okay.
Kind of person
Oh no,
who's
they haven't
smart
finished
and wise.
eating yet. They haven't finished eating
You
yet.
fucking bastard. Okay, I'll give you a...
No, you
Oh
sure?
man, more food, more food.
Yeah.
Well educated.
Hey, you better pay me something.
Well,
Did you
oh,
say
no,
that?
you're right.
Yeah. There's a lot of
Jamaican.
smart people who aren't.
No way.
Okay,
That's my
we're,
point.
we're about to start now. We're about to start, and it's gonna be all about balls now.
What about
Okay. Did you hear? Did you hear? We're about to start.
Okay.
And we want to make it clear so that people understand what's going on.
Okay.
Because if we're all talking at the same time, the people watching or listening can't understand what's going on.
Whenever somebody
Okay.
speaks without holding the ball, we tell him, you're not on the ball.
That's right. That's right. You're not on the ball. So we can start off with a brief introduction where you give your position, your ideological position. Yeah. We're going to go around. You're going to go around the circle and let everybody know. The topic is loosely around ethno-nationalism, race, identity, identitarianism, nationality, and so on. That's yeah. But now you know, right? Okay, so everybody.
What could possibly go wrong, everybody?
Right. Okay. Good.
There we go.
Right.
But nice and loud, nice and loud.
Okay. Nice and loud.
So, hello everybody, I'm gonna call myself Ross. Hello, my man. For now.
Who?
I'm gonna call myself Ross for now.
Ross.
Hi Ross.
Ross the boss.
So, on the topic of race and nations and everything, I start off with saying I believe races exist, even though they are hard to define, but they exist, they matter, and it's dangerous in social and political context to ignore the existence and to ignore that they matter in the real world. I guess I'm gonna leave it at that for a start.
I'm James. I'm sort of a right-leaning libertarian and an ethno-nationalist.
I'm Lee. I have no opinion really. I'm just trying to learn and see what opinions are around others.
But louder.
I said a lot of things.
Okay.
I said my opinions are everything, basically.
Yeah, I'm Jamie. I don't really have like a leaning, well, not that I'm aware of yet. I'm sort of just sitting here trying to work out where I am.
You're in Hyde Park.
Oh, is that where I am? Well, I'm done then.
I'm Pavlov. I am a supporter of meritocracy. I think that meritocracy should be the main thing to follow. That means that race is a bit, it's much less important, because if people are good at something, they should be allowed to do that. If they're the best, let them do it. If they have the interest of the people in their mind, But again, I would like if people researched into themselves, to know themselves, to know if there is any importance in race, so we know more about it. So I do agree that we should learn more about it.
Hi, my name is Lister. I'm absolutely not an ethno-nationalist, white supremacist. I spend my time arguing against that. I spent a lot of my time arguing against that, and I'll be doing more of the same today.
Good afternoon, my name is Mohammed and I'm a Muslim.
Hello, I'm Tiger. I'm a right-leaning economic nationalist with a lot more libertarian values.
I suppose I'm a English-born, British-born secularist who's very much into multiculturalism. I love my country in a multicultural, as long as it's a very balanced multiculturalism, then I can live with it. Everybody should be free to do as they want.
Alex, and going to your point, I think race for me maybe did matter at some point, but now that we are all interracial marriages and mixing and traveling, seeing the world, I think in a couple of 100 years it's going to be really, we're going to all be the same kind of coffee kind of mix.
Yeah, place to start.
I think it's going to be
Okay, so who would like to make the first point?
I'll start off by addressing his comment that if we all became the same shade of purple tomorrow through interracial marriages and so forth, would you say that there'd be no problems under that? Or would you say that that's sustainable long term?
Well,
I think if you travel the world and see how, for example, the blacks in London behave and the blacks in maybe in Uganda behave, you see that most of our behaviors and understanding of society is a lot of it is driven by our community and environment, not so much by the genetics that he might claim. So So I think in the future, if we do all become coffee and interracially all mixed, I think most of our values is going to be similar, and you won't be able to tell the difference. Most of it is probably going to be driven by inequality of income rather than color or race.
I'd like to say something. Sorry, just to follow up on that point, we are already completely mixed. If anyone was to go and take a DNA test, you'd find that you've got Scandinavian, African, and all sorts of specific cultures and places in the world. It's already happened. We're already all a shade of purple.
But that's going to drive the colors too.
Let him speak first. He was waiting more.
So, about the mixing thing and how mixed you are, I think there's something very interesting to observe, because we kind of select ourselves into our racial groups when we choose friends. When we, like at work, we usually work with lots of different races, but when you look at your circle of friends, it's not unusual, I mean, at least in Germany, I'm not sure how it is, it's not unusual that your friends are quite like you racially. You go in clubs, often there are black clubs or white clubs. When you go to a like a hippie meeting or some left wing, I'm not sure how to describe it. We often find a very white population there. So we select our friends ourselves. It's our free decision, and we very often choose not to mix, even though we might not really be aware of that.
What part of Germany are you from?
I'm born in the south of Germany.
In the south. I would have thought, if we look at the cities that define...
But I live now in the area around Cologne, so...
I know the areas.
You know, to a certain extent, you've got a point, because people choose to be with people that they relate to in some way or another, whether it be ideology, religion, or in this case, race. So it's kind of natural for people to relate to similar qualities in others. Nothing wrong with that. I don't see anything wrong with that. What is wrong is the extremization of that feeling, of only absolutely exclusively dealing with people just like you. I think I don't agree with that, but I do agree that you know, it's kind of normal. It has been like that throughout human history, that humans need to have at least something in common to coexist. And still, I think we should still, you know, consider how others are and see if we have anything to learn from them. But I agree with you on the sense that we should not feel bad for dealing with people who look like us or who think like us or who whatever. But
yeah, I would also, can I add one thing? I don't know why we do this selection. So we might just look for people who are similar to us. I don't have no reason for it. I don't believe that people sit at home and think, oh, I never want to have anything to do with someone who's slightly browner than me or something like that. That's not how it works in reality. But you see this self-selection, you see it everywhere. And I cannot give you a reason for it, but I think we have to accept the reality that it exists.
Okay, I think I know kind of how to answer that. It's that it's fine. You know, it's kind of the safety of self-preservation. When you see, you know, let's compare it to animals. Humans are more at ease when dealing with animals that they're more familiar with. When they see a new animal or a new bug, they don't immediately go to pet it, and it's normal. You know, it might bite you, it might be poisonous, it might do something like that. So it's the unfamiliarity people feel when dealing with somebody completely different to them that makes them deal more with people who are more like them. And again, I don't have anything wrong and anything against it, but we should, you know, consider it as we should always take it as with a grain of salt, because in the end we need to deal with others because again they're only humans.
Can I give an example of how that's been scientifically studied slightly as well? So couples, as in married couples or boyfriend, girlfriend, boyfriend, whatever, they have been studied to the similarities in people's faces. So couples usually go for people who have similar facial features, and I think that's completely natural. It doesn't mean to say that we don't see value in mixing with people that don't look like us, but that's just a natural thing, and I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I don't think that has anything to really do with.
Let it speak.
So going back to your point, I think if we look at the modern civilization, like modern cities like London, New York, you'd see that everybody's happy, getting along and mixing and everything else. And I you come from a village, maybe in some remote place, then much of the anxiety of someone who looks different to you is driven by insecurity. Whereas in the modern world, I think we mix with people that we share the same values. It's not so much color or how they look. For example, if you work in finance, you typically mix with people that work in the same industry. While people who work in Burger King.
Be louder, man. Be louder.
Yeah, a little louder.
So I think the insecurities around people are people that look the same. I think it's just out of anxiety and primitive humans.
See, we're living in what I class as a multicultural country. Obviously, clearly is a multicultural country, and it's changed even from the year of my birth in the 1960s. And if you actually think the way that we're even sitting here today and all interacting or whatever, what I find interesting, we're talking about ethno-nationalism. If I board a plane today and go on holiday, I'm going to meet all types of Brits, black Brits, Asian Brits, Muslim Brits, Jewish Brits, all types of Brits, and suddenly we'll all be together in the restaurant and we all become friends for life because we've all suddenly decided we're all British on that holiday resort. So there's this like pact that comes together. But within our society, when we come home, we're not quite the same. So what almost happens is that we can come together as a nation when we're outside of the walls of that nation. But then when we come back into our nation, we then look at these issues that cause segregation between us. But I think, for me, the way that multiculturalism, the best way this can work, if you want to look at a nationalist basis, is work out which nation you are part of. Try and stick with those national values, if you like, those national values. But without losing your culture, which many races and creeds have done here quite successfully. But the issue for me is the integration of people doesn't mean the losing of their culture. It just means the integration is on the national level. They can still keep their culture, but if they come here to try and change that nationally,
about race.
yeah, but this is about race, because at the end of the day, it's those races that we're trying to identify. Are you a white man? Are you a black man? What are you? I mean, what are you? You're a white man, okay? But then you're a little bit European. You get where I'm coming from.
Yellow.
So I'm looking at him. So we are starting to label each other. But as a nation, when we go abroad, we're all British. We're all on the plane being great mates, and we've forgotten those boundaries of colour or anything. So why should we not be able to do that as a nation? And I think it's getting above the racial issue. It's the nationalism that protects us together.
So the $1 million question is...
Give him.
I want to address the gentleman's point on multiculturalism with a question. What would a racially homogenous society, or largely racially homogenous society like China or India, stand to gain from multiculturalism?
What does it stand to gain?
What does it stand to gain? Yeah, if they decided to be a multicultural society, what do they stand to gain from it?
Well, they stand to gain from the education and cultures of other countries that might improve their own country.
That's a cultural.
And plus they
There are
cannot...
certain things in this country that have been changed by multiculturalism, not for the bad, but for the good.
Yeah.
So we made Britain better.
Plus they cannot, when a society says, I am the one, my way is my stuff, then you cannot call yourself a free society. Simple as that. Simple. Say it when you mean it. If you don't mean it, that's why when people come here, they call themselves in the Western Hemisphere that we are the pinnacle at the moment. In 2019, we are the pinnacle of freedom, democracy, and everything. It announces in the world stage. When it's our nature as humans that in the parts of the world when humanity gets, let's say, subjected to war or famine or whatever, it's human nature that they will find the best place to survive. And the best place to survive is in the Western Hemisphere. And when these people, as I said last week, when they come, they have this feeling that I will be free man. Then they come with their baggage. Their baggage is their culture, their religion, the way they look, the certain things they think are very, very close to their faith or to their culture. And when they practice those, they don't want to change, then I think the Western Hemisphere conflicts between value and culture. Western value is democracy, freedom of speech, freedom of religion, freedom of expression. But if I cannot go with you in the pub and don't drink with you, you cannot tell me that I'm not welcome. That's culture, because the value of this society gives me that right. The moment you tell me, no, you can do certain things and certain things, my brother, in the first place, you are not a free society.
The way last point that you said, you guys can make that, but listen. The way to deem societies that are better fit to improve is their malleability. How a society reacts to adversity, how a society answers the needs of its people, how a society adapts to new needs. That is one of the most important things in a good society that we should follow and that we should learn with. If a society refuses to make any change in their point of view, any change in their morality, any change, no compromise, nothing, then that is not a good society. And it cannot be tolerated in a tolerant society, because it does not tolerate that society back. That is my point. That's my point about China, and if they should accept other societies.
No, but
if the
he
society,
made a point at my
if the
point.
society,
It may improve
yes,
them.
if
It
the
may
society,
improve
yes,
them.
if they deem them worthy, fine.
It's a double-edged
Fine,
thing.
let
There's also
them in.
improvements for other
Allow them to
cultures
improve them.
for us.
Allow them to
Yeah.
give them their own,
Yeah.
perspective, if they are able to do it. But if they refuse to accept anything about the Chinese society, all they want to is to continue to practice their own values, not caring if they're good or bad, not caring for any evolution of values, then I'm sorry, but I do not agree with those kinds of values, because they are not malleable, they are not fit to improve humanity for future.
I want to say something sort of addressing this question of values. So I don't really know how to define values, but different cultures have selected different values throughout history. Mo has pointed this out when he referred to the Western Hemisphere.
Yeah.
In the Western Hemisphere, we have certain values which are not shared, how do I say it? Which are not shared by every nation across the world. If you go to China, you won't be treated as a free individual. You'll be treated as a foreign citizen. You'll probably be treated as a second-class citizen.
But they don't
the
claim
very
to be a
best.
free society. They are communist society. They don't claim.
That's exactly my point.
I prefer the
they
whistle.
have developed on their own terms,
Yes.
and they have
Hurts a
different
bit less.
values.
I get that.
And they are pretty unwilling to change that.
Yes, but when the Western Hemisphere says, I'm a free society, then you gave me my rights. I can think for myself. I can say whenever I want to say.
It doesn't mean you can subvert that
Can
society.
I
Like what?
Let him speak,
no,
let him
which
speak,
way?
don't be like him, don't be
No,
like
but
him.
I'm saying do not conflict, values with culture.
Sure, if I can get a shot.
British value
Next
is
one is
freedom
you.
of speech,
If I get it,
but British value to eat Sunday roast is not a value. British value is a freedom of expression.
So your idea of
Wait,
culture
wait.
is just meals that we eat.
Of
right?
course, that's the way you
British
dress
culture-
is your culture,
British
but the
culture
way
to
you
you-
think is your value.
So your
It is possible,
idea of British
it is
culture is fashion and food.
Yes, well, hang on a minute.
No,
Our favourite meal
but
now
very
is
why?
India.
shallow idea of
No,
what
I'm
British
not.
culture is.
Our
I
favourite meal is
respect your
India.
values. I am not gonna kill anybody. I will work. I will pay the tax. I will keep the most highest laws that as a good citizen I can live. But in my own personal life, my religion, my culture, or where I come from is also important. I cannot change that, but I can go with other values that I can agree with you that it's a good for a functional society. Like,
Can I
do not do
it's very
crime,
important on his point. Just
don't
on
be
his
a
point.
criminal,
It's about the Chinese
don't
thing.
rape,
It's
don't
very
lie,
important.
don't cheat, obey the rules and regulations of the land. I agree in these values, but you cannot tell me, let's go on a Saturday night in a pub and have a drink
Guys,
with
there's other
me
people who want
because
to
you are
speak. There's other people.
against my
No,
this
I
value.
understand.
Okay,
That's not your
that's
value.
it, that's it, okay.
Give it to Will.
Possible.
Sorry. Alright, cool.
If that's your value, then I don't agree with your value.
okay.
No,
Sorry.
you're not on the ball.
Then I don't agree with the value.
Alright, cool.
Done
So
it. You got the point.
let's see if we can get somewhere. I just jumped in. So with what you're saying, man, is
I want to say something.
I don't see. It seems like you're calling out the UK for being hypocritical. Like you're saying, if you call yourself a free society, but you don't allow people to do this.
Yeah.
But the society that you imagine, it doesn't exist. It'll be it'll be in like an anarchist utopia. It has to have rules and structure, right?
Then you should have told me in the beginning when you come here.
Okay.
No, because you don't want to make
No,
sense.
no.
You should have told me in the beginning when you come here. This this
No, wait. Speak. Then he's next. He's next. Finish.
Order!
Okay.
People keep speaking.
Okay,
Let
sorry.
me speak.
Right.
I'm just going to chill until they calm down.
For basic stones, please keep quiet. Thank you.
Let me finish.
like
Let me
this.
finish. It's the idea like
Can I
that.
just
It's
say-
like, can you join a society
No,
that allows you to have an
made your point, it was
extensive
good.
number of liberties? Can you undermine that society? Can you use those liberties to actively undermine it? That's the thing that I'm saying. Clearly, I would say if you've got any sense, you would say no. You shouldn't be able to undermine a society like that.
Can I?
Okay.
I'm not saying that's what he's supporting.
Can I rebut
No,
that?
he's
Let-
not.
let-
No.
Let me just say, I want to say one
Wait,
thing.
he was waiting.
No,
But he
German
said,
first.
can you undermine a society?
No.
Yes, you can.
No, not next. Germany. No, you got one. Right. Who's next?
I want to respond to you.
No. Wait.
He was waiting. This point.
I'm sticking on his point, then I'm moving
No.
on.
After. Wait.
Okay.
Germany.
Okay. I don't really believe that Muslims are trying to undermine the society or anything. And I don't think that the differences in the cultures are that very big. But I believe that there are small differences that do make an important difference. For example, like, you're actually a good example. You get very emotional and you want to talk and make your point. And we have the term of southern temper, that's something like that exists. And
It exists
it's
in
not,
white
it's
people
not
as well.
necessarily a bad thing, or it's not a bad thing at all.
Yeah.
But in a round like this, it can cause some trouble. Like
white
just
people
in the
don't
Like
do
it
standard.
doesn't happen in white.
And it's these little differences, when they add up, that can...
She said no ladies.
Keep coming if you want. Yeah.
Silence from the gallery, please.
So I think
Gallery.
these little things
we have a
that
feminist trigger.
really can add up, these little different things in behavior.
Like?
And if you want to think about history, it's...
No, stick with the
we have
behavior.
very different and even if we thought that we were homogeneous society, like let's say Germany 500 years ago, it was not homogeneous. The different tribes killed each other every time they could, like 2,000 years ago.
Yeah.
Like when you erase the big racial differences, then the small ones become all that much more important. It never ends. You cannot create a homogeneous race. It does not exist. And we have never found out how to really make all those different people live together without genocide, without constant war. That's really a pretty common theme in world history if you look at it in broad light.
Right, I'm going to say something about China. Have you ever been to China?
No.
Have you ever been to Hong Kong?
No.
Right.
Have you?
Yes, I have. Hong Kong, right, and China, in some of their cities, are a mirror image of the Western world. They've already embraced it. When you say China, you think of these little people all living in Red Square and all that. No. And what we're talking about here is a completely westernised, cutthroat society that is in the most capitalist sphere you'd ever see, right? When you go to places like Hong Kong, you go to cities in China, you will see them competing, the businesses are competing on the world stage, okay? Is something funny? Something funny? Sorry, thanks. If you don't want to tell me what's funny, just tell me what's funny. Right, the issue is that they are capitalist nations. Go to Dubai and tell me if it follows clear Islamic lines as an old tribal Islam country. What I'm trying to say to you, all of the world is following each other's cultures and Westernisation has hit nearly all these nations, including the China you're talking about. So it's not a homogenous country like he was saying. It actually is a mixed match, an oxymoron of the traditional and the very modern following the way that we act. That's why there's multimillionaires in China and all this sort of thing, because they're following a capitalist. They're following a capitalist method. They are still following capitalism in its truest form. You've only got to go there to see it.
You said the way that we act, and I just want to ask who the we is.
The West, I'm talking about our trading, the way we trade.
That's exactly my
Hong
point.
Kong, China has stock exchanges
Because
just
the
like we have in the West. It's
the
exactly
values
same.
are an emergent property of our culture. Capitalism is an emergent property of our culture over time in the West.
Yeah.
Just because others participate in it and benefit from it does not mean that they would practice it had they been left to their own devices and developed in that particular way.
But you can't
what
say
you
they
see,
But they have.
Look at our
what you
society.
see in the Western world what you see in the world is the West brought about global capitalist structures, infrastructure, and trade throughout the world.
And they took them on board.
Corporate.
They took them on board. China
And
took
look
it
at
on
the
board.
situation. Right, but I don't think. I don't
Western
think if China were world,
They're living the
I
Western
just
world.
want to say this:
Yeah.
if China were the world hegemon today instead of America, I think we'd be looking at a very, very different world. And I think you know exactly that we would.
Yes, everybody does their own way.
Anyway, you are allowed to laugh, by the way.
By everyone's forecast, China will be the leader in the next few decades, century at the most.
You are
century. So I mean, that's going to happen. America's already using lots and lots of loans from China. China propping up the world already.
I've heard of that, yeah.
Aren't we meant to be talking about race?
Yeah, exactly. Can we stick to race?
Yeah, why did we go to finance? I mean, okay, it was a tangent.
We went from race to culture, from culture to finance. We're stuck on values at the moment.
Yeah, the values.
I think if we carry on this trajectory, we're getting.
Wait.
That's right.
Go back to race.
Next. Yeah, I'm not meant to put words in your mouth. I think that you and a few other people believe that if racial demographics change, then values will change. Am I right? Or
yep.
Yeah. I mean, I disagree. I think that when we look at the people who have embraced Western civilization, who aren't from Europe, mainly the Jews and the Indians, they're the ones who are kicking ass. In fact, I'm not saying I want this to happen. I don't want this to happen. I think Europe should stay European. All right, George, sorry. I think that if a lot more of these people came over, it would be turning like capitalism on steroids, and it'll be not that I want that to happen. I'm just saying Here you go, man.
I think you do.
Let the lady.
I think you do want it to happen because you can get decent mobile phones.
I'm collecting my thoughts. I'm collecting.
Why economics is important. Culture and race and economics are all very interconnected.
Yes,
I mean,
I agree.
economics plays a huge impact on racial segregation, racial divisions. I mean, you have areas here where you could definitely say that they're considered less economically prosperous, but then when gentrifiers move in and they're just mainly white, everything becomes better. So you have better schools. Once an area is gentrified, you have better produce.
What's an area, sorry?
Any area that's been gentrified.
Gentrified.
Yes. So it's prime real estate that had been often forgotten by the government here, and they've left it to people of low economic status, which unfortunately are mainly either black or Asian or any really ethnic minority. And then when the prime real estate, when we have things like the housing crisis here where people want to buy more property, these places are suddenly recognized again, and they're seen as an area where you can go and a lot of things change. You get better schools, you get better healthcare, you get better education, like better food, and politics, I mean race and economics, they're definitely connected. Wouldn't you agree?
No,
I agree.
I never disagree.
Next.
So wait.
I don't think they're as connected as you.
Hold it.
I don't think they're
Not yet,
as
not yet.
as you say. But
I don't know how things are done in the US, but I've lived in very poor white towns before. I don't know if it's a thing where you're saying that certain people get a better treatment, but is that what you're saying?
No, I mean certain areas.
Certain areas.
Receive better services just because they're of prime real estate value. And they're seen.
Yeah.
No, our point was when other people come from different nations to the Western civilization, is it okay? So they could come.
Wait, no.
So they could come. They want to be what they want to be. Or like these two saying, the two gentlemen are saying no. When they come here, they should leave certain things behind. That's the point. Let's see if it's fair or not. Let's talk about this. That was the point.
That's the only way to coexist in a society.
Then you're not a free society.
Bro, you don't understand freedom. That's why you keep misinterpreting it. You're so far from freedom in your mentality that you don't understand how it works.
If I tell you just now go you're free, what did you mean? What did I mean? What did you understand?
You see, you don't understand even the freedom of speech. When I speak to you, you hurry to interrupt me. Listen, okay, let's speak about let's speak about freedom. Let's say what it actually means.
Okay.
You can't.
Be louder, bro, because these guys are loud as well.
All right.
You can't treat a person in a way if the person doesn't treat you the same way.
Yeah.
You can't do that. In a society, there are certain rules that everybody needs to follow. If there are no certain rules, if those rules are way too few, then the society collapses on itself. That is why I think that when people come to a new country, they should accept at least most of the morals of that country. And if people come with the idea, my truth is absolute, my moral code is absolute, my ideology is absolute, then I'm sorry, but they are not welcome because they don't accept any improvement to their ideology.
That is integration. That's what we were saying.
Exactly.
That is
integration is
what we're
accepting
talking. It's
that your
successful
ideology
integration.
might
That's what it
evolve.
is. Yeah.
If you refuse that evolution, I'm sorry, but you have a very antiquated
national
point of view.
integration.
Do you think
Wait. Next speaker.
Can we go back and stick to race, please? And going back to the point this gentleman was making. If you hold your race so highly,
Louder.
you wouldn't want to integrate with others. I presume you think you're better than others, right? And the example that you gave of his emotional behavior, that was a really bad example.
I was going to say that.
To say that they are inferior because
I'm getting emotional because I am different.
horrific crimes. So can you give us some examples
That was
of
his
what
point.
makes
That was his
race
point.
No, but I can't
inferior?
because you're talking over it.
That was his point.
I was agreeing with you. So
You're next, but after you wanted to say something?
Yeah, sorry, do you think that
And then you.
these values are interlinked with race? Or do you think that, like, when you said that, my culture is superior, do you think it's directly interlinked with race?
It's an interesting question. May I answer?
Okay. Oh, not yet. No, after Germany.
No, we shouldn't do this now. If he asks a question, let him answer.
No.
Okay. What's the question again? Just to
let
make
the
sure.
questions
You're saying that people come over here and they bring their values with them, and then they're like, no, I'm not going to compromise. Do you think that's directly interlinked with race, or do you think it's just people who are just idiots?
I don't think it's directly interlinked with race. But many times it coincides with race because the region where you live, the climate, you laugh because you don't understand. The region where you live, the climate where you live influences your culture. And that climate also influences your race because humans adapt to the region where they live. Their bodies adapt to the region. So to a certain extent, if we look at the big picture, race and culture does coincide sometimes.
I want to take my seat. I need to go.
Yeah, you can.
I don't want to take a woman's seat.
No, but it's fine. I need to go.
Equality, bro.
Okay, so what was I saying? Race and culture sometimes coincides, but it doesn't mean that it's linked to each other eternally, because the culture of a certain race can be adopted by a different race. There's nothing wrong with that. It's just that it's not, it doesn't happen as often as a culture being at least somehow linked to race. But I don't think they're inherently linked.
I'll let him go first, though. I'll see to you, sir.
Okay, the question was, when I made the
How is
example
your race superior?
exactly,
His emotional
superiority. So I made this example that there's something like Southern temper. And
But white people
Southern temper.
Okay.
But he's east.
Yeah, he's also South Germany, I suppose, or his origins. But I did not imply that, well, I didn't try to imply that I would see it as the reverse thing would be superior. And the interesting question is, if you establish that there are differences, structural differences between people, whatever, or races, whatever these races are, how do you even judge a difference? What is better? To what goal? So
you're making sorry, just for a moment.
Do I
You're making some
misunderstand
specific
you?
claims, but you're not giving any examples.
I don't see
So
it. I
to
didn't
say
hear
you
any
have a
claims.
superior race.
He did.
First of all, I never said I have.
Well, your position,
Because I'm
you don't
from
want your race to
where
be
I am
mixed,
from.
presumably suggests you're better. Otherwise, you
He's
would
not
want to,
emotional, he's cool
improve
because
your
he's
race.
from a
But
certain
let's say
place.
you don't, and you come from a village in Germany.
He made it clear.
Right?
Yeah.
Can you explain how your race is so fundamentally different to the rest of us?
Yeah, well, I did.
That
It was just a
deserves
small.
to be preserved.
I wanted the example was supposed to indicate that these differences, they are very small, very subtle when they
give us
exist.
examples?
And well, the Southern temper, I try to establish that as an example that different races have a different attitude. like different. Temper is something like a character
So
trait.
your
isn't it?
attitude and your behavior to your actual DNA rather than your environment and how you've been brought up?
Might be a cultural thing. I'm not sure whether it's
So it's not
sure
race.
that it's not,
it's not
a,
racist.
Biological thing.
Right, can I say something
it's
now?
Might
Can I say something
be,
actually?
I think
If that's all right, can I say?
I'm not a biologist, but the most important thing is if you have a difference, like okay, you have a race that has more temper and a race that has less temper. So how do you even judge what is better? How do you judge
You
that?
just
There's no
Hang on.
real
I want to say something.
You just
said I don't know.
undermined your
if
own
it was,
position.
Hang on. We're talking about, is there something in a race? Hang on, right? Okay, I'm going to give you an example then. Okay? This lady who's gone, unfortunately, she made a good point about there are various areas, for example, just this city and this country, which we know they're classed as poor, rich areas or whatever. Okay? The majority, for example, of the race that I know well, the Jews, when they came here, they lived in tenement blocks in the East End of London. Okay? They didn't come as wealthy people, they came in tenement blocks in the East End of London, which is now sometimes, not always, but sometimes classed as a poor area. Not all of it is. Okay? What they did was they integrated in British society, the majority, not all, but most of them did. They worked the way out of the East End, went up the Silk Road, they call it the Mile End Road, and they went out to Essex and they lived better lives now and whatever. The same thing has happened with the Indians, and the Bangladeshis have done exactly the same thing. The Hindus here have worked themselves out of Brick Lane. So you see the restaurants in Brick Lane, but where do they live? They live in Chigwells, Eppings, all they out in beautiful houses. Why? Because they have taken them, they've come into a country where they had to live in those poor areas. They were classed as immigrants, they came as poor immigrants, and they made British society work for them in two ways. One, they gave something back to British society, and they took the freedoms of British society to improve their lives. Do you get it?
I
So
agree.
you don't have to stay in the doldrums. It's almost responsibility of that race to do something for themselves.
Yes.
If you want to get yourself out, get on your backside and get yourself out of that area by making something for yourself.
Okay.
And that's how they did it. I'm giving you examples, not
Right, it doesn't address the betterment of a race from another.
That's how
I
they
just
did
want
it.
to address a couple other points that weren't addressed to me, but I don't think anyone is talking about superior or inferior when we talk about race. I just want to get that out of the way because it's important and it gets thrown about a lot. Now, if we look at, I just want to make a point about human history. If we look at human history, human race has been around, human species rather, has been around for around 100,000 years. Now, in that time, we have only seen one race of the world that has produced what we would describe as global capitalism. And it's the same people that built America, it's the same people that built Europe. And that has been it's not just been capitalism, it has not just been values, it's not just been restaurants. It has been morality, it has been philosophy, it has been architecture. It has been an unbelievable amount of cultural innovations that we have built upon, and we reached a point where nobody else in the world was able to create the current standing order that we have as Europeans.
Okay. Now, just my friend was full of emotion. He just said, I can, no, it was my turn.
Let's hear Mo.
No, I get
Oh,
that.
sorry.
This gentleman was so emotional that he does not understand that
Can we be
his...
respectful? Can we just try and, I feel like that's a little
Man, he was
What did I say
shaking.
wrong?
I don't mind, Tyler.
What did I say?
I mean, he was calm. He was
What
calm.
did I say?
Mo, make
You
your
were
point,
saying
mate.
he's emotional.
Make
Let
it
him
point.
say,
No,
say.
let him
Let him speak. Let him
The
speak.
problem is that in the Western, as I bring back in the Western society, as you grew up, you have one window in your room and you're looking through life through the modernity and the history of the Western civilization. Get out of the room, there are more civilizations, there are more countries, there are more people, there are more rules that they were the pinnacle of science and they were the pinnacle of justice. You cannot say your view as this is my view and this is the window I can see through life. No, you can't have the right, because when you say that, it gives me as an immigrant, as an outsider, as a different race, I can say the same thing, that I'm looking from this view and my way is the best way. You're making same argument, that you're saying that this is it, my way is the best way. No, get out of the room.
So you're saying he's as bad as you are?
No.
So
There
he
are,
has
we can no. I can
There's no difference, and now he's.
I can differentiate when.
What are we arguing about here? Race? We're talking about race, right?
We're talking about what
We're
he
talking
said.
about Western white people. We should probably say.
Not yet. After this
That's
man
my point.
here,
When
he
like,
gave way.
like the gentleman, when he read his history, when he reads about Renaissance, and when he reads about how the Western society developed, got the rocket, whatever, he thinks, as a race, as a white man, he is the pinnacle of everything. That's what he thinks.
And at the same time, he
I want to speak to you.
Not yet. This man here, and then you.
He's been waiting long.
No, he gave way.
I gave way to him.
He gave way. He gave way.
No, I gave way to him.
Okay, I didn't see that.
Right, your turn.
So I just want to address the Germans' mentality, really. So this guy got a bit vibrant, and this guy suddenly assumed that he was vibrant, and it was connected to the way he looked or his race. But then when this guy, but before then, he said he was questioned on whether it was biological or not, and he was like, I don't know. But then he continued to make the claim anyway that he's getting vibrant because it's his southern temperament.
He's from the east.
Well, that's what his words.
Will, thank you very much. I did say you from the east.
But then this guy here gets very vibrant, and it's not. There's no question of this guy's white, so he must be a vibrant guy. It's just
passionate.
The hypocrisy, and it's blind. Like people who believe in differences in races just do not see themselves. It's in the same way that they see these other people from these different races. We're all humans. We should be treated as individuals, not as collective skin colours or eye colours.
Cool. So you were talking about the white race, right? You say the white race spread America.
Louder.
Europe. Very loud. I've got a deep voice. I've got a deep voice. All right. Anyway, the white race. Right, you say invented America, Europe, all that sort of stuff. I grant you, it's a good achievement, isn't it? America's one of the best countries in the world, in my opinion. Right? But where did it come from? Right? Math came from the Arabs. All this sort of building structure, it came from outside.
500 years.
It didn't regenerate with the Europeans. They didn't just come up with it by themselves. They took shit and then they reinvented it. The failure of other cultures, let's say the Arabs as well, their failure to take from other cultures. And it's just race, man. It's just like skin color. It's a pigmentation. It just so happens to spend to America. So I'm gonna leave you away.
Pablo?
Weird point, man. Is this
Yeah,
do you want to speak?
I think I agree with what
I came in on the subject of integration.
I did not. I did seriously. I didn't hear much. I thought.
Make your point. I'd like to hear your point. You sat there. I'd like to hear your point. I'd like to hear his point. I'm having a vote on this.
Hold it.
Sorry, Pablo. I'd like to hear this man's point. He sat there and he wanted to hear his
Pablo
point.
first, then you, then Germany.
There's a reason he's sitting there. I want to hear it.
Guys, you're not on the ball.
I don't know. I'm going there.
You don't have the
I don't agree with what you said, because even though now the Western society is what's holding the most dominant civilization, it hasn't always been like that. Precisely. In the past, when as I usually say, the first civilization developed in Mesopotamia. Where is Mesopotamia? In the Middle East. Exactly. Between the River Tiger and Euphrates, with the cities of Uruk, Akkad, Persepolis eventually resulted in the Persian Empire, one of the best empires ever. Then it was the Alexandrian Empire, also known as the Greek or Macedonian Empire. Then, the Egyptians came even before the Alexandrian Empire. Yeah. During that time, France, Germany, England, Spain, Portugal, Italy, the northern countries, they were nothing special. There was nothing to write home about. The Chinese developed most of the starting technologies we have today. They developed gunpowder. They developed cannon. They developed muskets.
Yeah.
It was and it was funny because when the Chinese developed gunpowder with the muskets, then the Europeans came there.
Opium War.
Huh?
Opium War.
No, I'm not talking about that. I'm talking before colonialism. Before colonialism, the Europeans already had gunpowder. It was, some people say the Mongols brought gunpowder. I kind of
Also
agree
got
with
Black
you.
Death.
Yeah, also the Black Death, yeah.
Race.
Okay, yeah, but the Europeans developed those weapons. They made them much stronger, and when they came back to China, their weapons were much superior than the Chinese weapons. That was the time when the Europeans started taking initiative over the world. They started taking it, especially the Westerners, it into their own hands. But before that, it wasn't always like that. In fact, it was usually not like that at all. You know, let's talk about the Islamic empires. During the Islamic Golden Age, that was the main, the pinnacle of the world, because they united the two greatest civilizations of that time, the Eastern Roman Empire and the Sassanid Empire. And they didn't just destroy it, they actually appropriated them and they developed those achievements.
Algebra.
Algebra with Al-Khwarizmi. I made a presentation about him the other day here.
I agree.
There are many different civilizations, many different races if you want.
They built Baghdad, I think.
Yeah, with the House of Wisdom of Baghdad. And when it was destroyed by the Mongols, that was the end of the Islamic Golden Age.
Burning of Alexandria, the library.
It's not that's different. That's different. I finished my point.
Yeah, okay,
Just last quote, just to summarize what I said. Yes, now the West holds the initiative to civilization. But again, it hasn't always been like that, and we need to realize it and learn with the past.
Yeah. Now,
He's waiting.
We're going to go back into integration.
Yep, carry on, yeah, go on.
Which is what I want. What's your good name?
My name?
Yeah.
His name, my name?
No, you.
Mo.
Me?
Yeah.
Mohammed.
Mohammed, so I'm going to go back to your subject where you're talking about here not being a free country.
Totally free.
Yeah, not being totally free.
Yeah.
Because you're not able to practice your values here, right? Okay. But
No, I didn't
Wait,
say that.
let him speak.
I never said that.
Okay. You said you're not able to practice your values freely
No,
in
I
a
said-
free society.
Just make
which
your
is why
point.
it's not.
Let him speak. Let him speak.
You
Let
make
him
your
speak.
point.
I think he
Okay.
has a
Make
good
your
point.
point. We can always
Wait.
I never said
Guys,
that.
You make
stop
your point.
interrupting. Let him
Okay.
speak.
Let him speak.
No, but if I never said something.
Mo, let him speak.
As our
Can I clarify?
As our,
No.
no, it's okay. As our
Let him
friend Mo said here before, I think I've got a good memory. Correct me if I'm wrong. Mo said, as humans, your instinct is to go where you can find survival the easiest or the best way to survive, right? Okay, so if you choose to go somewhere and live based on the perception that that is the free society, but then you bring on with you values and ideologies that are not free.
Okay.
Yeah. So, for example, in a lot of places, there are women not free to dress as they want.
Yeah.
Yeah. That is not seen as free. There are people that are not free to eat what they want.
Okay.
It's restricted.
Yeah.
They're not free. So, just because you go into a free society, it does not mean that you can bring those non-free ideologies with you into a non-free society. So, in a place where women feel free to dress as they want, and when they see women not have that free choice to dress as they want, they might feel a bit threatened. They might feel, hold on. Even if it's not the case, they might feel, hold on. This is what we work hard not to go into. Do you understand what I'm saying? So it's not just because it's a free society.
No, you're contradicting yourself.
Okay, not just because it's a free society. You can introduce anything that you think, hold on, this is something that makes sense to me, and I can practice it here.
That's not a free society.
But you are bringing something that is not free.
You should have told me in the beginning.
Your ideology is not a free ideology that you're trying to introduce. It's
These
not
are
a free
the rules.
ideology. You're trying to enforce your ideology onto a free society, a non-free ideology.
No, he's
a non-free
addressing me.
value, a non-free value, a restricted value, a limited value, onto a society that thinks we're free.
Okay.
We don't need restrictions. We don't need limitations. Does that make sense?
I think that's a very good point, and that's part of integration.
Assimilation and integration.
No, I have to address
wait,
him.
wait.
He claimed something I
That's a
don't
very
even
good point.
say
When
it.
you get your turn.
Let him answer. Let him
Really
answer.
good point.
We got very political now. I think we strayed away a bit from the race theme.
It always
Yeah, but he went politics.
Guys, wait.
It doesn't matter, it rolls around.
And so you're right, my example was probably not very good. But what I would like to ask you actually is, so race, as I see it, is people developed separated from each other for thousands of years in some areas. There was little mixture between, and so they developed a bit of differences, supposedly. I mean, some are obvious in the phenotype, and the question for me is, did these differences that developed in the phenotype also correlate with behavioral differences that developed also in that time? Is that feasible? Like, is it possible that we deal with actually biologically driven differences?
Do you want to ask
in
me this question
character
again
traits?
once he's responded, and then I can respond directly?
Yeah.
Maybe that's more
What about him? He's been waiting.
I never claimed that when a free society claims to be free, let's understand what freedom is. You telling me that if a society comes and says we have the freedom of speech, freedom of religion, freedom of expression.
Can I correct? No, that's not what I said. I said if you come to a society.
Yeah,
society
if I go
you,
to this society.
You're coming to a society.
Okay,
Yeah.
I came to the West.
Not society coming to you.
I came to the Western society.
Okay.
I'm an Afghan, yeah? I came to...
Let's not bring into a part of nationality.
No, because I came here.
Okay, let's not bring nationalities though. Let's not.
I'm giving you my example. I'm giving you my example.
Okay.
When I came to this country 23 years ago, when I came to this country 23 years ago, I came when I didn't know the language and this and that. So I started my life. I went to learn the language. I think that's integration. I was working and paying taxes. That's integration. I got married with an English lady. I think that's really integration.
That's big integration.
And I was married, and I was married for 18 years. My kids born here. And I love these values of that. I can go into the queue and I can stand with all other race and colors at the same queue. When I see a civil law, I abide by it, and I'm a really good citizen. But when it comes to my religious beliefs, I think, as a father, that I tell my daughter that I like to, when you go outside, you wear a hijab. That's my religious beliefs. I have the same right to tell my daughter, or my daughter have to accept it, and when she goes in a hijab, you cannot say to me, the woman who doesn't do hijab, and she goes, oh, how dare she wears this? Because the society told me that I'm a free person in this society. I've never broken the laws. I've never created any violence against anybody, but I have a specific religious belief. At the moment, the society, my religion is simple. It gives me...
Enforce your ideas.
No, it gives me restrictions.
Can I ask you a question?
Last point. My religion says the moment the values, or if you cannot practice your religion in that society, and the society tells you, it says simple, pack your bags and leave.
Can I reply?
That's my point. And I made the same point last week, but why it comes to this? I don't know why.
I wasn't there last week.
As a free man, you should be allowed to practice.
Okay.
Mo, we got it. We got it, Mo. We got it. Excellent.
So you were asking about the differences between the races that are genetical differences between races.
In a behavioral context.
In a
There
behavioral
are obvious phenotype differences. They're obvious.
So are you saying that they're genetic?
I ask you whether
He
that's
doesn't know.
reasonable.
You don't know.
He doesn't actually know what he believes in.
Regardless of whether there are differences, why can't we just treat people as individuals? So if someone has got a bad temperament, treat him as though he has a bad temperament. If someone is a criminal, treat that guy as a criminal. Don't just say, oh, 1% of white people are criminals, 2% of black people are criminals. So let's just focus. No, I'm just making up these statistics. So let's just forget about white people, because the bigger problem is black people. No, the bigger problem is criminals. The bigger problem is criminals. We should be treating people on their individual crimes and not extrapolating that and punishing innocent people on the crimes of a few. I think that's just blatantly obvious, and there is no defense for it.
I just wanted to respond to something you said earlier about when you look at Europe, Western civilization and capitalism, and it's only developed in Europe. 1236, Timbuktu, during say like the height-ish of the Mali Empire, Timbuktu had a higher population than London. So when we talk about, you know, like they never had capitalism, of course they had capitalism. When you had civilizations and markets, yeah, you know, you get capitalism. I generally think that's a normal human thing to want to trade and buy things. And then when we talk about things like the Black Death, when the Jews were living in London at the time, no, not London, when the Jews were living in England, I think it was England or somewhere in Europe, everyone was getting sick. Everyone was getting sick but the Jews, because the Jews washed. Now I'm not trying to be rude, but and then as a response, the Christians expelled and persecuted the Jews because they said, "Oh, you're poisoning wells," you know. So yeah, so you know, I think I disagree.
100 years ago in Punjab, a British general ordered and killed 600 people at a massacre. Jallianwala Bagh.
Guys,
no, this is the last time. This is a problem.
We should remember our history.
This is a problem. I feel like what's being said is kind of being said to the wall. This is the last time I will mention freedom like this, and I will explain what freedom is here in the West. Now the point of freedom, of a free society is, you can't allow societies that refuse freedom and that are not free to coexist with your free society and give them free rights, because they do not apply the same rules you apply to them to yourself. It's not mutual freedom. It's me giving freedom to a person who doesn't give freedom to other people, doesn't give the same freedom. And
Can I be a Muslim?
The worst part,
in the Western society,
you can't hear, you can't listen, you cannot listen.
Simple question.
You cannot listen. Have I interrupted?
What is wrong with you, man?
Because it's bullshit. Calm down, man. He says freedom, he doesn't understand.
You have such a small understanding of freedom that it just doesn't fit in your head. This freedom, it just can't fit there. That if you put a society that does not have freedom, does not respect freedom of choice, freedom of speech, freedom of women, you cannot put it together with a society that does it. And you cannot put a society that refuses to change, even one slight bit, with a society that accepts change and wants to evolve.
So you need integration.
Exactly.
That's what I'm trying to say.
You
National
need to evolve,
integration.
to improve,
Like what? Tell me.
prepare for
National
future.
integration.
How?
Hey, please, quiet.
It's easy.
That is how you forge a better future for humanity.
Right?
That's the
Order,
only way.
order.
National code.
That's what I'm doing.
Well, that's what then you're integrating.
Let Pablo finish.
And the fact the sanctimonious ideal of my ideology, my ideals, my morality is absolute. That's what you keep showing, you keep telling that the Westerners have. That's what you keep telling the Westerners have. When you are the one who has it the most, you are the one who thinks you have the absolute morality, you are the one who thinks you have the absolute law in your head ingrained into you by God, and you refuse to accept any change to it. How dare you be so sanctimonious and so hypocritical as to call out the Westerners on it, who are giving you freedom and you keep abusing it because you don't understand the meaning of freedom.
Sorry.
There we go. We've given you. Let the Germans.
I would like to hear that.
We have given you. I'm not a Westerner myself, but I respect this society. I have to exist with it. I don't try to refuse freedom.
Mercedes-Benz, guys, please.
He's now at fried egg. He's overcooked the egg. He's fried egg.
He
now,
fried
right?
it.
Carry on.
Came to reality.
Order.
To your point again, you made it very big about
didn't understand it.
crimes, crime rates, and I wasn't talking about any of that really, because
Well, if you're talking about someone being more violent, let's say,
behavioral differences.
Yeah, being violent is.
But that is not the same as saying race is prone to crime, something like that. I think that's a ridiculous claim. I cannot imagine how I could.
See, for me, you want to say something else, but you're hiding.
Makes your position even more.
You're hiding. Say what you want to say, bro. Don't be scared. Don't be scared.
Trying to say it all.
Believe what you want to say. Believe.
From you.
No, it would be nice if you'd let him actually say it without.
That's right. Not impersonal, man.
Let this gentleman say where he really is.
Germany.
Germany. So, the honourable member from Munich now.
He's a white nationalist.
The question is, why do we have racial tensions pretty much everywhere where people have to live together mixed? And that's pretty much everywhere in the world. So what does... And crime is not the thing that drives it. There is no race that is
in favor of crime.
Before you finish,
Just
can you
doesn't
tell me
exist.
about the
So
places where you
the question is, where does the tension come from? Where do the problems really arise from? And I would assume that there actually are structural differences in behavior that make living together hard. Not hard in a way that
You've
we
never
start
lived with anyone that's
punch
not
each
white.
other. It's just, it makes
How
it
do you
more
know?
difficult for us to talk to each other, to understand each other, to assume. Maybe an example, the way we bargain when we sell stuff or buy stuff.
Wow.
Have you ever sold
Different.
something to
Bro,
a
just say I'm a
client?
racist. Simple.
Hold on.
Just simple.
No,
if I
no,
was
no,
like
no,
you,
no, no.
if I was a terrorist, I swear I would say I'm a terrorist.
Please,
Because I believe what I say.
Wait.
Don't be a hypocrite.
Right.
I've got to reply for more. I've got to reply
So I
for
would like to.
Yeah, let him finish.
So, I mean, there's a,
Welcome to Speaker's
in
Corner.
Arabia,
Now you're in
there's a
Speaker's
different
Corner.
attitude than on a market in Sweden. Say. There's just a different attitude. I wouldn't say that
your main point is that
that
they
any
correlate.
any attitude is. I wouldn't be saying that you can judge any attitude, but it's very different. I'd say in a Arabian context, they're trying to find the right price by both parties try to get the highest price for themselves. So they bargain each other down until they meet a price where they agree, and that. Sometimes I have the
Well, what's
feeling
the
in
actual
northern
point?
countries,
Leave
it's
it.
the other way around.
Mr. Speaker, we need to know what the point is.
Please
The
give
fight
us.
for the
He's from Germany.
It's
Give
not
him a
that-
chance.
Not that emotional in northern countries. It's a very general thing I say right now, obviously, but it's the best example I can come up with right now. So I would say that is an example for a different attitude in different people.
The way we trade with each other.
Yeah.
The way we bargain.
Like actually when two people bargain over a price.
So what you're saying that
We're on the market, you want to buy
So if I
something.
go into an Arab country, which I've been to many times in
Yeah.
my life, you bargain and
Yeah,
you
exactly.
knock the price down, right?
Yeah.
In Britain, we're all very frightened about knocking the price down. We all sit and just accept the quote.
No, it wouldn't be. It's
Right.
not that we are not capitalists.
but
I'm
that
not
is
trying
part-
to.
It's because of genes,
but
he's
that-
saying.
Right. Well, the Jews are very good at doing negotiations, okay? That's why they're very successful what they do. However, so are a lot of the Arab nations, and so are the way that they... No, I don't want to point at you, sorry, mate. But I'm just saying, but generally, there are a lot of cultures. The Chinese are unscrupulous
Sorry,
with their
order,
dealing.
sorry,
okay?
order.
They're unscrupulous dealers.
You haven't got the ball. You have not got the ball.
You don't have balls on the ball.
I've got the balls, though, but I haven't got the ball. Sorry, Riza, sorry. cut that, cut that.
I finish and then.
He's just got
Let
one
him
more
finish.
point.
Let him finish.
Yeah. So, whether the example is good or not, if such a difference exists, and bargaining is definitely not a
work it out
crime,
where he's going.
if such a difference exists, might that be the reason why racial tensions arise?
Well, because of the way we bargain.
Because Arab bargains in Tesco's.
Spoke about Arabs.
It's called shrewdness. It's called being shrewd.
Yeah, okay.
It's called a shrewd businessman. That's what it is. And it works.
Response again for Mo.
That's the.
He did make his point, though. I got it.
So Mo again, response for you, my friend.
Oh, you.
Oh, my brother Mo.
Oh, why me again, bro?
No.
Why me?
Let him
Okay,
speak.
so let me answer him back then.
No, you answered.
wait.
You said you've come to a free
Wait.
nation.
Not one
Yeah.
of Mo's
And you said you
bits
should
in,
have the
half
freedom
hours. No,
to
no.
enforce your ideas on your daughter.
Enforce my idea.
Yeah, you said you would enforce your ideas on your daughter. You said you would like it if your
Yeah.
daughter
Yeah.
would go out and wear a hijab.
Yeah.
These are the problems. These are the issues that
So?
you are not
I
noticing.
think-
Let me finish. You ain't got
Why
Let
so?
me finish.
So
Wait.
Sorry, go on.
I can help you out.
It's all right.
He won't get it. He won't get it.
Okay, hold on.
Okay, go on. Go on.
Here in this country,
Okay.
here in this country,
Yes.
There's a secret if anyone wants to
it's the
debate.
law of the land.
To
Not the law
wear
of the people. Oh my God,
bikinis.
You see how exactly.
Come on, regulate, man.
Can we,
All right.
hold on.
Okay, here in the UK, it's the law of the land. Yeah, like you said,
Oh no, here comes.
like you said, the freedom of choice. It's the law of the land, right? So,
Let him finish this stuff. Let him finish.
Yeah, go ahead, bro. Go ahead.
so basically, you've got the freedom now to make a choice. So why are you taking that freedom away from your daughter? Why? This is what is bringing the issues. When you're thinking, oh, I've now come to a free society, that means now I can implement my non-free ideologies.
Okay.
This is where the issues come in.
Okay.
And like it or not, survival instincts of the human, it is quite threatening. Because it's something maybe they worked hard or
Because you can't look at his teenage daughter.
No.
What are you talking
First of
about?
all, you haven't got a ball. First of all, you haven't got a ball. Yeah?
She deserves the freedom in a free country.
Second of all,
He doesn't have the right to oppress her.
No.
And he defends the
Why
oppression.
people do that to their daughters as well?
are we going to regulate?
You didn't get the point.
No. Wait.
He just answered the
Whoever's
question.
got the ball.
He said when she gets to 18, because of British law, he would allow her to do whatever she wants.
I don't care what she does after 18. I don't care.
Important with that- listen,
But till then, I'm
okay,
a
on top
father.
of any argument or whatever, guys, is the rules of the
Okay, go
the
on.
debate we're having here. Guys,
go on.
please respect that.
Exactly. Can I
Before
answer?
any argument, yeah, let's respect that first.
No, he wants to talk.
Before any argument, let's respect that first. Let's respect the land of this freedom to speak here, but let's respect that freedom. Anyways, yeah. So what I'm trying to say is, right, just because you have come in onto a free land, regardless of the people, just because you come into a land that lets you practice freely, it does not mean that you can implement your non-free ideologies.
So it's not free then.
Does that make sense? No, it is free. But the ideologies that are being presented, right? Okay, so if you come to it, okay, let me bring it this way then. Let me bring this to it. Yeah? If we say, okay, we are a very now we are actually introducing a very new society, right? We're introducing a healthy society, right? It's on you now to decide, right, what is healthy and what is not healthy, right? And make that choice, right? But if you are going to enforce your ideas onto someone else on what is healthy and what's not, that means there's no
The
freedom
Honourable
for them
Member
to make
for
that
Edgware
choice.
Road has not been heard.
Yeah, let him.
The Honourable Member for Edgware Road will now.
Totally deluded.
Fundamental Islamic views has anything to do with race, and I'm not sure why we keep doing back and forth.
I don't know. That's my
Let's stick
point.
to
Let's talk about
race.
Mo.
The guy sitting next to you.
Get in.
No, I said I was
Muslim. The bloody
You
terrorist.
see, the victimhood, the victim complex.
I told you I'm not a victim.
Yes, you are.
The fact is, the guy sitting next to you recognizes himself as a white man.
I'm crying.
And-
Why am I laughing?
Although he doesn't want to explicitly say it, he gave some indications that he believes they are superior, or at least so worthy that they should be kept separate to your race. And we kept asking you, why do you believe that races exist and why they should be kept separate? And you got to the point that you had to ask us if behaviors are correlated with DNA formation. So I want to ask you again, why do you believe that your race is anything special to be kept so pure? Or why is it even different?
question.
What's different? What's so different?
That's a very
Good. All
I
right.
think he should answer.
Not yet.
Germany should answer that.
Let him answer that.
Hold it. She's giving way. Ladies giving way.
Germany.
Okay.
Germany.
I never said that I believe
Don't
my
mention the
race,
war.
whatever that is superior, because I do not believe it. And the thing is, you cannot even judge whether a race is better. I mean, even if you could define races very clearly, which you can't, but let's assume you could. Let's just say Germans are racist, which they aren't, but let's just for the sake of the argument. And you have another race, whatever that other race is, and you have a structural difference between those. So how do you
Give us examples.
Please just let me finish. How do you even judge which is better? Because you need a goal, a life goal for that society to actually judge it. And you could assume that, okay, the reason or the job that the society has to do is to have children and survive as long as possible. That's maybe but you don't even know that. That's maybe something you could set as a goal, but as long as you don't have a goal like that, how are you going to judge which trait is better or worse? So you cannot rank races, even if you could define them based on differences.
Do you think Germany is above anybody? Do you think Germany is above anyone else?
Don't bring Germany.
Do you think Germany's got a better culture than others?
The lady.
Exactly that.
Do you think Germany has a better culture than others?
What?
It's not
So the
culture.
question.
Why do you bring culture?
Maybe I can put it like this: if you ask is a race better? how do you even define better? What is better?
Exactly.
You have no answer to that.
So it's then prejudice that we're talking about.
There are many qualities, many different
prejudice.
qualities that race can, society can have.
What do you mean, what is better?
Therefore,
Wait.
Therefore, I do not believe that anybody, including me, can rank races on any level and therefore say that one race is superior to any other race.
So why keep it separate?
That's not racist though.
Why keep it separate?
Why keep it separate? I'm not in favor for forced separation. Not at all. People should sort that out themselves, which they do quite well. I'm not in favor of political intervention.
So you mean otherwise?
So, but the question is, I mean, racism is a reality. It simply exists. And what I'm trying to understand is pretty much why. Where does it come from? Are we all just bad people who like hating on people who look different? Or are there actual differences in behavior that are not mean or bad in itself in any way, but they lead to misunderstanding and therefore to trouble if you have mixing problems?
He is.
You're the one who said there are nations where in cities where there's mixed races. And you come from a village in central Germany.
I don't live there.
Okay, guys.
You don't know how
Okay.
Just a quick question. One to you. What is freedom? Why you? Because you've mentioned free society, free world. Okay, first of all, there's no such thing as free speech. Free speech is reserved for those who are privileged, because I can say something, and the repercussions of what I say will be different to someone else who might be in a slightly more privileged because of race, because of other factors that they can't control. You keep saying free society and you this and you that. The whole point. So you have issues with him wanting to practice his religion, or
I haven't got issues with him.
No, not him personally, but as in like
Can I respond?
I'm going to ask you something as well.
The idea of being in a free
It's
society.
just because it feels like...
No, you can do it after me.
Okay.
No direct response. You finish and then.
So let her speak then, let her finish.
You were asking him about coming. All right. Well, I want to know what people's definition of free society, free world, free this, because there are rules everywhere. There's no such thing as a free society. There's no such thing as.
So this goes to him as well, right? Not just to me, to him as well.
Oh yeah, whoever thinks what you're thinking, basically.
No, he doesn't think what I'm thinking, but I'm saying
Well,
it's just for me or for everyone.
So it's to you.
Okay.
I agree with him.
You. Okay, well it goes to you too then. It's whoever thinks that. Whoever thinks that, oh, the West is West is the best. Basically. Oh, and you have the freedom to do this.
I don't
you
believe
have
the West is free,
freedom to
but
do
anyways,
that.
yeah.
Well, you were saying that you
No, I was thinking on it.
I will answer, but
on
he's
it.
first.
So
I can answer this.
so let's talk about freedom.
You've asked the question. We've got the
Go
question.
ahead.
So let's talk about
Answer this question.
freedom in the hijab. Dude. Would you let your 14-year-old daughter go out with a short skirt and makeup full makeup, boobs out?
Wait.
Would you let her go
So
out
is
the
that
house like
rhetoric
that?
then?
No,
That's
just
exactly,
answer
yes.
yes or no.
Yeah, all
But he's saying no response.
Answer yes.
He's saying no
Answer yes.
response.
Just
No,
answer yes or
no.
no, please. Just answer yes or
Tormenting the
no.
shit out of him.
No, exactly. I don't
That's a very good question.
Would you allow your
Can I respond?
14-year-old daughter?
Yes or no?
Go ahead,
It's not a yes or no question, but I will respond, yeah? Okay,
It's not a yes or no
listen,
question.
let me respond, yeah?
Listen.
Listen, not everything is black and white, yeah?
Exactly.
If I had my daughter, 14-year-old, I would advise her on what the bad things are if she was to go in a mini skirt and let her make that choice. And what would encounter, how she could be in danger, and what kind of attention she would attract if she was to go into that kind of place in a wrong area. But if she wants to go in a bikini at a beach, I'll let her do that.
Oh yeah, of course.
100%. But if you are in a beach and then you enforce your hijabi ideologies in a beach, that's when a lot of people are going to think, hold on, where is the freedom to make that choice?
Okay, so I agree with you there, but there is still a lot of people in this country, a lot of white people, I imagine black people and people of all faiths, who, if they had a daughter like that, they would not allow them out of the house wearing stuff like that. But that just goes under the radar. because it's seen as a normal thing for dads not to allow their daughters to go out.
No, it's just getting into intuition and thinking. We're talking about freedom.
No,
we're talking about freedom and the ability to make a choice.
And here's the thing: not all Muslims make their daughters wear hijabs.
So not all Muslims give their daughters the freedom to choose.
But all people who give them hijabs are Muslims.
No, they're not.
What did he say?
No, they're not. Who is besides Muslims?
What did he say?
Who is it?
Tell me.
Yeah. You know another civilization?
So a Muslim cannot practice his religion fully then, that's what you mean?
That's not what I mean. That's not what I mean. But can I have the ball then?
Yeah, in a minute.
Pavlov.
Have you finished?
Pavlov. So then Muslims cannot practice fully their religion, that's your point.
Does it say in the Quran they should cover their face? It actually says
Why from race it went to Islam? See, that's my point.
Because you're the one who brought it
to
to
the elephant.
I remember it because you're the one who brought it to Islam.
No, because he said
You don't even remember.
freedom.
Exactly, freedom. You are the one who brought it to Islam. You are the one who was cutting the branch you were sitting on.
Am I free to tell, to practice?
No, to enforce your ideas
but
on
you're
your
not
daughter.
free to
Then you're taking away
Who
her
are
freedom.
you telling me?
You're taking away her
Who are you?
freedom.
Who are you? Please, who are you telling me?
Me.
Yeah.
I'm practicing the law of the free.
Order.
But as much as you, no, bro.
No.
Please let me.
We're getting personal one-to-one.
He's a person
One-to-one
who
is
practices
chaos.
the Western freedom of speech.
Right.
He's
I
a
cannot
person who
practice the
practices-
freedom of the West.
He's a person who appreciates this country for what it has to offer.
Can I have the ball a second?
No, but me
Have you
living
finished? Have you finished?
in the West, can I practice those
Can I have
rights?
the ball, please, mate? Thank you.
Can I practice my
Can I ask
rights?
you a question?
Wait.
You seem to not understand
Have you finished?
that every
Yes, he
freedom
has.
has a limit,
Pavlov's
and you don't have a freedom
Let's
to
get back
oppress
into the
another
system.
person's freedom, and you're
There
oppressing
is
your
no-
daughter's freedom.
So there is no free limit.
Wait.
So when I come here,
It's a matter of balance.
Thank you.
It's a matter
You haven't
of
got the ball.
balance.
if
You
I
haven't
come
got the
here,
ball.
You don't have the ball.
I need to
Don't have the
adjust
ball.
things.
No. Later.
I need to
Later.
adjust
Not
things.
now. Right. Finish your point. Make your point, and then move on. Make your point.
Wait,
I have
Wait. Yes. But after him. After him. Right. Make your point, and then move on.
Yes,
make my
please.
point.
It's a matter
No,
of...
I didn't.
Guys,
Oh,
let's get back into the system. Let's get the ball.
Last thing.
The camera's doesn't lie.
Please.
You made your point.
Please.
The camera's got it all.
Please. It's a matter of balance. One extreme is to cover your daughter completely. Another extreme is to let her go naked.
No.
I wouldn't agree with any of that. Freedom
When did
needs
I
to
say
be
to
in
my
the
daughter
middle.
cover her face?
Freedom is not absolute. It's not letting her go naked. And it's also not completely taking away that freedom, letting her go completely covered. Freedom is something in the middle.
Can I throw
To
something
go,
in very,
to let
very...
her
I
go,
want to ask you a very
but not
controversial
force
question.
her,
Who
but not
says
force
that?
her to dress in a specific way.
Whose idea is that?
It's the idea of the West. It's what you oppose.
So
what
it's a
you
better
hate so
idea.
much.
It's a better idea.
Have you made your point?
Right, I'm
Thank
going to
you.
ask this gentleman a question.
You don't
Right.
understand. You don't understand.
The Western idea is a better idea.
No, enough. You've made it. Right. Believe me, the camera
Yeah?
doesn't lie. It's on there. Right. Can I ask you a question?
Thank you.
He doesn't want his daughter, right, to go out without wearing hijab up to the age of
I never said
consent.
cover the face.
But
You
up
make
to the
your
age of
point.
consent because you accept she's in
course.
Britain. Right, hang on a minute.
She's in my...
I'm going to ask you a really hard question. You don't have to
your
answer
command,
it,
yeah,
but I'm going to
sure.
try and
Of course
show how
she's my
balanced
daughter.
this needs to be.
I'm a father.
Would you let your daughter marry a white Muslim?
Hold on.
Yeah.
How did we even get here? Hold on.
Yeah. Well done.
This is about race.
That's a-
This is about
it's
race.
race.
No, it was
Very
would
fair
I let my
question.
daughter marry a white Muslim? Okay. Did she want to marry him?
Yep.
Does
She
she
wants
want
to.
to marry
She
him?
loves him. She wants to
I
marry
don't
him.
care if he's a white monkey.
Right, so you'll be happy
if
for
she
her
wants
to
to
come
marry
home
him-
with a white Jewish man, a white... So she could marry a Jewish man, could she?
If I was to actually go against her will, wouldn't that be taking away her freedom?
Right, so you wouldn't be a hypocrite in that position then. So if your daughter, at the age of maturity, said, I know I come from a black ethnic family, but I want to marry this white Jewish guy, Jewish man, okay, you would be totally happy. You wouldn't guide her away from it or anything like that.
That's like backwards thinking. I'd never ever even think of doing that. But I think that's
No, it's relevant.
That's a
The reason
personal
it's
thing, yeah. Actually, I
relevant,
wouldn't, but it's
no, the
personal.
reason relevant is your personal feelings. I'm not talking about your
Yeah.
personal feelings
Yeah.
could then impact on your daughter
Yeah.
the same way as you're saying Mo's personal feelings are impacting on his daughter.
Okay, fantastic. Can I reply
And
to
it
that?
could be because you've got a prejudice. You may not have a prejudice against me. I'm not saying you're prejudiced. I'm saying if you did have a prejudice, you might have a difficulty. Now, there are some races races, there's some like the race that I come from. Sometimes, not for me personally, but sometimes Jewish people have a problem if say their daughter wants to marry a non-Jewish person because they're trying to keep the faith going. You know what I'm talking about. So families have caused horrendous rifts over this in their lives. But that again is control that you're talking about. So the reason I asked you, I'm not saying you're a prejudiced person at all. I'm just asking you, would you, in that circumstances, if you were prejudiced against a Jew, or you were prejudiced against a Muslim, or someone who was white or something, could you see in your head, you might think, I better try and steer away from this relationship because it doesn't go with how I'm feeling? That's the same situation as you're telling him.
Do you know what?
Okay, it's not.
Thank you.
Muslim is not a race.
I want him to answer.
Anybody else?
Pablo, with great respect, I didn't ask you the question, I asked him the question.
You're next.
You're
You're
linking
next.
two things.
I didn't ask you the
Anybody
question, I
else?
asked him the question.
Anybody else? Would you like
Pablo,
to
I
speak
didn't ask you the
after?
question.
Okay, but wait till after this man, yes?
I want him to
Okay,
respond.
hold the ball and wait.
I want him to respond.
Yes, hold the ball and wait. Right,
Thank
go
you
on.
for taking the question. Thank you.
First of all, unless my daughter was to come with a bit of worry about who she's marrying, right? Let's say if she was saying that she's going to marry someone who's going to force the hijab on her, I tell her, listen, you wouldn't want to marry someone that doesn't let you have the freedom to make your own choices.
So you're putting your own pressure on her?
No, I'm giving you advice. I'm giving you advice.
What is he?
Yeah? Let's say if I saw Mo going around and robbing shops and robbing houses, I say, listen, you know the person that you want to marry? I saw him, he was robbing houses. I just give her a bit of a warning, advise her, as you do to your loved ones, be my daughter, my neighbor, my friend, anyone, right? I would give them that advice, but I would never enforce my ideologies on them. I wouldn't say
But you're
no.
sort of where he is, aren't you?
No,
You're sort of
yeah,
over there.
you're
correct.
You're
He
waving
said,
that way.
hold on, I've got the ball.
All right, now
Mo
you've got
said, I have my daughter, and I would tell my daughter to wear hijab before she goes out. I would tell my daughter
what
to
is
wear
wrong with
hijab
it?
before she goes out.
What is wrong with it?
Okay,
advice, not an obligation.
as your own daughter,
That's clear as day.
if your own-
It's not clear for some
But
people.
that's just the point.
If I believe in obligation,
There's a reason I asked this
Hey,
question.
Have you finished?
what to believe is
I can't
what to
finish.
believe. Who are you?
So you wouldn't or you
A
would?
free man.
Hang on. Yeah.
Answer the question. You
I
think you're
can't.
better than you
Would you
think
let
that
my
my
question?
So I will evolve. You will never evolve.
We've heard from you.
Right.
I'm asking the question.
I
Would
didn't
you?
finish.
Would you or wouldn't you? What's the answer?
Would I? What?
Would you
You
control
want
the
a
way
black?
you want it
He
to
wants
go?
a black and white answer.
Yes, can you give me a yes or no?
But come on,
Guys,
I'm not going to let him corner me like that.
You can't give
I'm not going to
simple
get cornered.
answers to complicated
Okay,
questions.
hold on.
It's not about
No, this is
racism.
not
I
a
want
question
to
thing.
know
Let me say,
if
I've
you
got
as
the ball.
a
Let me talk.
father. No. I'm talking about your prejudices. Your prejudice as a father.
Address the question.
Address the question.
Everybody
I
has.
want the question answered.
That term is a weaponized term.
Guys, I've got the ball. Let me just get my point. I'll keep quiet. All right.
Rajiv.
Right, go on. Question.
So basically, you've asked, right, if I was to try and implement or enforce my ideas onto someone else. It doesn't have to be my daughter. Would I try to enforce my ideas onto someone else? Right? If I was to see my daughter going onto a road where I thought she's going to get robbed or get burgled, I'd warn her, I'd give her advices, right? But I wouldn't say, no, you cannot go down that road and hold it. That's taking away her freedom, regardless of what it is. It's taking away.
So would you allow your prejudices to put aside for the benefit of your daughter? Would you say, I don't particularly like Jews or whites or whatever, hang on one second, but I'm going to put that aside for the benefit of my daughter to do what she wants to do in her life? Would you accept it?
Okay.
Or would you allow your prejudice to make her try and steer her way, which is no different to what is
questions.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's a bit too much.
If I am pro freedom and I am pro letting people making choices for their own selves after they've been informed, right? Why would I try to take that ability to make their own choice away, right? So what I'm trying to explain to Mo is, right? Again, I'm gonna explain, right? You say that you have come to a free society.
Yes.
You have favored this free society.
Yes.
The world is very huge.
Yes.
There's many places that you could have gone where you could have actually practiced exactly your type of ideology, right? But you've come somewhere where you thought, hold on, here is what I'm going to be free to implement my ideas and practice my ideologies.
Thank you.
Okay. As soon as you give a child, then you want to enforce your ideologies on that child.
That's it.
Where is the
That's it.
freedom?
Yeah, thank you.
Doing
That's
the
it.
same.
Next. Next.
Christians do that. Jews do that.
The lady is about to speak.
No, it doesn't. It does. No, it doesn't.
Lady's going to speak.
See the hypocrisy in
Look. Right.
It's all about race. It's all about race. It's about prejudice.
Gentlemen, what's your name?
Ian.
Right, Ian. Firstly, you try to mix up faith with race. And faith is something subjective. It's
Right.
nothing to do with race.
Yeah.
So I think that all needs to be taken aside.
I'm talking about him as a prejudiced
Why are you
human
making
being.
it personal, though, man?
Don't make it
But
personal.
race is not the same as
The race
faith,
is part of
it?
your prejudice, and so is faith. Your faith and race makes you prejudiced. the way you
Order,
wanna be.
please.
But not
Giving an
necessarily.
example. It's no sense.
So what you're saying is that if you follow a religion, you
Yes.
become prejudiced?
Yes, of course, because you may be prejudiced with that religion against other religions. And if you're black, you might not like whites, and a white may not like black. Therefore, faith and race are totally the two reasons in the world why you have prejudice.
There's a balance. No, religion is the number one. There is no balance. Religion is the number one.
The two combined are racism. That's what causes the racism. I can be racist against you according to your religion, and I can be racist against you according to your race, if you like. And what I can do is I can be
But
prejudiced.
no, you can be prejudiced.
Yes,
not
okay,
racist.
I get that, I accept that. But what I'm saying is, you said that they're not relevant. They are not that different because they are the two fundamentals that changes us from the common denominator, which is human beings.
Well, no,
One
because
thing
why-
we are definitely the same is we are human. But we are of different races that we've chosen to be and different religious faiths. The faith and religions is what causes us to be prejudiced against other people.
Okay, you've made your point. What's your point? Have you finished your point?
No. The fact of the matter is, when it's faith, it's
Yep.
your choice to follow that
Go on.
faith. You can't change what you're born as. There is not a white person in this world that chose to be white.
Correct.
There is not a black
What about
person in
Michael
this
Jackson?
world
Right.
that chose to be black.
So what's the point you're trying to make?
The
point.
point is, there is no
Make a
difference
point.
between the races. That people need to get over themselves
Yeah.
and stop making it about faith and everything else.
But it is.
To try,
But it is.
to
That's the
try
fact.
and make their own little tribes,
Right.
okay, and to bring about separatism.
I
You can
agree with
respect
you,
yourself
but I'm telling you
and
why.
your culture.
He's telling you religion is the biggest
imposing
obstacle.
on
I'm
others.
telling you the same thing. I agree with you.
He's telling you
I
religion
don't
is the biggest
believe in
obstacle.
prejudice,
You're next.
but I'm telling you why there is
Right,
prejudice.
I've seen very bad comparisons here, honestly. Very, very bad
Oh, he's got it in
comparisons.
for me now.
I've got very bad. I'm coming for you,
This
man.
is going to
I'm
be
coming for you
18
now.
plus, tell you.
No, wait, you don't have the ball now. You don't have the ball.
I still
You don't
love
have
him,
the
by
ball.
the way.
You
I
don't have
still
the ball.
love him. He's
You're not on the
okay.
ball.
He's okay.
All right, guys, are you really giving him the example? You're
He's not
linking
speaking, is
faith
he?
and race. You're linking being
yeah.
white with being a Muslim. Everybody has a choice to stop being a Muslim. People don't have a choice to stop being white or
That's
stop
what she
being
just
black.
said. I sort of get that.
Yeah,
but I'm
man,
saying
but
that
why
they
do
are
you give him that
because they
comparison?
are the real
You're trying to
things that
flip him.
exist.
You're trying to make him say something bad.
That's what causes prejudice. Those two things.
It's a very low blow. It's a very low blow.
They wanted to
Very
corner
low
me.
Well, I'm sorry.
I didn't get
Well,
cornered.
you'll have
I
to
didn't
raise
get
your
cornered.
guard a bit better.
No,
then,
I'm not
won't
done.
you?
One more thing.
You'll have to raise your guard better than me.
Balance.
What
That
balance?
is what matters.
Yeah.
You can't. I don't agree with putting a burqa covering completely the woman, and I also don't agree with letting her go naked. I don't agree with either of that. If your daughter tries to commit suicide, I will stop her. I will force her to fucking live.
Pavlov,
I will take that freedom away
Pavlov,
from
with great
her.
respect,
Yes.
all you're
I will
doing
force that.
is giving your
I will
view.
force her to
You're
live.
giving your view on it.
You see,
There is no
That's
other.
all
like
you're
him.
doing, which
You
is
can't
fine.
listen.
You're
Let him
giving
listen.
your
Boogeyman,
view.
boogeyman. You see, the boogeyman, we need to say Muslims.
Boogeyman. Yeah, I'm your boogeyman. That's
All
why
you're
you don't
doing,
listen to
Pavlov,
what
is
I'm
giving
saying.
your view.
You're
And your
you were
view is
Show how
you
barbaric they are. Show the
You're
world.
giving him false examples, trying
Excuse
to
me, Ian,
trip
will you
him.
stop talking?
When he's
Thank you.
talking, when he's saying real things, when he's actually talking sense.
You're just giving your view. It's the Pavlov
My view. I can
It's only
prove my view. You
Pavlov's
can't
view.
prove your view. If you can't prove your view,
I
it's the
do-
other person.
You haven't got
If
the
the other person wins in an
I
argument,
said you haven't
got the ball.
the other
Ah,
person's
you
view
haven't got the
is
ball.
and
better.
religion are the reasons for prejudice. Race and religion are
Next.
what causes
If
prejudice.
people, are you going to interrupt? Are you going to interrupt?
for
Are
you,
you going
so
to behave?
please
You don't have the ball. Are you guys going to behave?
But you seem to be hogging the ball.
The ball.
I'm going to respond.
That's why I can't get the ball.
You'll get it
Are you
after.
finished?
Dude, I'm going to say your point, so just
All right.
let me.
Thank you.
All right.
I think I'm making it very clear
let me
what I'm
let
saying.
me
Thank you.
let me
Finish, so
Thank
then
you,
we
by the
can
way.
respond.
Thank you.
Cheers.
I'll give it to
and
you.
everyone's just beckoning like children.
Don't worry about that, Will. It's just going to happen. Pavlov, it's not just your way or no way. Everybody's got a right.
Let's let him finish.
Ball
It's
after.
not just your way or
But you're next.
Yeah.
The ball goes. Right.
Finish your point.
It's not your way or everything. Just come on. You've got your view. You've got your viewing.
The right way for humans to evolve is in discussion. We put our ideas through the test. We argue with each other to achieve a better solution to our problems.
Correct.
Some people refuse to put their ideal through the test.
I get it. I'd already
Why
said
do you
that.
defend people who refuse to
didn't
improve
defend
and
anything.
who believe wholeheartedly they have
You
all
don't
the
listen.
answers to the world?
You don't listen to what I said.
It's not
I didn't defend
good
it.
for
I said
humanity.
It's
You haven't got the
Stop
ball.
it.
It's
Right.
I said
You
it's
got the
what
ball.
you see.
Stop it.
Don't worry about him. Don't worry about him. Don't worry about him. Next. You're after him. You're
You
next.
can't deal with
then
those
you.
speech.
Yeah. Okay. Good.
Right.
Make it round. It goes like this round.
Yeah, but the people.
Anyway, you can
people
put it back
change.
to 16 now because
Islamophobia is a form of racism because there are white Muslims who have never been a victim of Islamophobia, yet there are brown Sikhs who have. So if brown people can get mistaken, who are not Muslims can get mistaken for Muslims, then that's why it's the Islamophobia or Islam as a I mean, it's not a race, but it has been racialized.
The concept
as
of
a
life.
concept has been racialized. Like I said, white people don't get Islamophobic attacks. Sikhs do. That's just ridiculous.
I've got a response for Islamophobia.
Yeah, good response. You must be joking.
Why is that joking?
Have you never seen people discriminating a white Muslim?
Pavlov, you haven't got the ball. 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 Don't be a hypocrite. You haven't got the ball. Will,
Do you give way to him?
Yeah, I want to talk in a minute.
And then you next.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. Right.
Pavlov, you haven't got the ball.
Yeah, Islamophobia. His view is the best. This is my experience and my views, right? There is no religion, not even one religion in the world, that tries to gain validation by getting in the numbers. This is, I know about Islam. I've got Muslim families, right? In Islam, there's something called, whenever you have the ability to convert another person into Islam, you actually get a favor. Yeah? You have a bigger chance of getting into heaven if you convert someone into Islam. I'm talking, he'll back what I'm saying. It's called ajr in Arabic. So you get a good mark for converting someone into Islam.
It's true.
Is that right?
It's true.
Thank you. So what I'm trying to say is, I've never actually seen any religion in the world trying to force their religion
address that point
onto the rest of the world. Does that make sense? It's sort of like...
No, it is true.
Hold on,
but
hold on.
2256.
Ball, guys, ball.
Come here, come sit here.
Come sit here, guys, get the ball and talk.
Surah 2256, there's no...
I will address that, wait.
Can I finish then? Yeah?
Yeah.
I have never seen any religion
Take my seat, I'm leaving.
pushes their ideology and their religion as far and
What
as
are
much
missionaries?
as... Guys, ball, please.
What's a missionary?
Ball,
A guy
please.
got killed on an Indian island.
Hold on,
Christian
hold on,
missionary because he wanted to convert
Guys, please. I've said this is my views. I've never lived through the missionaries, guys. I wasn't here when the missionaries. I said this is my views. I've never seen. I said I've never seen. I'm talking about what I've seen, guys.
My final play, my friend. No, wait till the ball comes to you. Right. This man is next.
And you're making it about Islam. This whole thing was about race.
I said I was thinking Islamophobia. I got into Islamophobia bit.
It can move on. The conversation's finished.
No, I'm not finished. I can't talk because everyone is interrupting me.
But you point short.
Why
Islamophobia? I can't.
Why did he go to Iraq?
Where's he going? Where's he going?
I'm going to talk now.
Okay, Will.
Make your point.
Okay,
Camera.
let me make my point. Let me make my point.
Let's hear from Will.
Let me make my point, right? As far as Islamophobia comes in, right? I think, yeah, if religion was to become a personal thing, one that you don't try to sell and become a salesman of, and try to get more validation by getting in the numbers, right? And try to get validation by getting more people to support your values and whatnot. If it was a personal thing, I don't think it would have become a phobia. I think it became a phobia because people were becoming threatened by it. Yes, the media does play a big part, right? And corporate business needs reasons so that they can make profits out of unnecessary wars, right? Now, let's get into the minds of the people, though. Let's get into the minds of the people. How many religions are in this world? A lot, a lot. And why is the only phobia against Islam, even though it's the religion that's been embraced by the most numbers of people in this world?
You asked
right?
Christianity
I'll
still.
tell you why.
Hold it. You can't make your point.
You asked me a question and then you're going to answer it.
Exactly. You can't
It was a rhetorical question.
Yeah,
You don't need a
exactly.
response. It was a rhetorical.
Let me tell you why now.
Too long now. Too long now. That's
He
enough.
made
That's
you
enough.
have a
Right.
You have decided what you know and what you believe. I cannot say anything.
Mr. Speaker,
You've made your mind.
Mr. Speaker, Will.
Hi guys, cool.
He asked the question.
So let's talk.
And he said,
Let's
let's
talk.
tell you why.
Guys! Yeah.
You're holding the ball for him.
Yeah, I just want to move my hands around.
The logic in some
cool.
people.
Alright, cool. So, yeah, the first thing to say is that you notice that when we have a discussion, if you ask questions that make it personal, it quickly degenerates.
That's right.
You notice that? Just I want to send that out there.
True. Exactly.
The more that you can separate your ego is a difficult task. The more you separate your ego from these ideas, no. The more you do that, the clearer discussion we can have. I know it's difficult. We've all got things we attach to personally for different reasons, but. And you don't need me to tell you this, I just want to say it. The more we can do that, the calmer it can be, the more progress we can make on ideas. Because for a lot of things, you guys here, the way that you guys live, I imagine you live in very similar ways and you probably have very similar belief systems. But we come here, we take it real personal, we ask real personal questions, we try to put the onus to take someone out. It's not how you discuss. That's my first thing to say. The second thing to say is about race. So if we're going to have a discussion about race, the first thing is, I don't think it's a legitimate discussion from the start. Because if you know anything about genetics, you're going to see that we're almost entirely the same.
I disagree.
I would assume you would.
That's another debate.
Right.
There's another debate starting.
The problem with that situation, with disagreeing on that, is there's actually a legitimate scientific field devoted to the study of it. So your opinions might become invalid. Right? So the next thing to say is that this guy said it, and also she said it. Making distinctions on someone from something that they can't personally control is a ridiculous thing to do, right? If you're born in a certain country, you look a certain way, you have no control over that, why make that prejudice? The key is that we do that. Humans have an in-group preference. It's part of our behavioral psychology. Again, it's a part of science. So people are talking like it's your weakness as a person because you're prejudiced. It's actually a part of being human. It doesn't mean that you can't control it, you can. What I want to say on that, one more thing. Imagine a hypothetical. Imagine you were adopted. Imagine your parents were killed and you were adopted by a family in South Korea, for example. Ethnic Koreans, whatever that means, right? And you're like, let's say it's Pavlov. Let's say he was adopted by Korean parents, right? If he's raised in that environment, he speaks Korean, he learns the culture, he has the cultural values of that place. Is he part of that race? Or is he part of the white race? You understand the ridiculous fallacy? You understand the ridiculous fallacy of it?
But that's conditioning of your history. That's the conditioning of your history.
Do you not see what I'm saying?
That's the legacy of your history. That's your legacy.
You're either human.
That's your legacy.
You're either going to look at everybody as equally human, or you're not.
Good point.
And if you do that, well, we know where that goes, don't you?
So, my brother.
That's what I'm saying.
My brother.
You have to wait for the ball.
Good point.
Wait for the ball. All right. So let me.
That's a good point.
1 second.
So my brother.
No, not yet. Hold the ball.
Oh, you need to
Wait.
hold this.
Alex.
It's a circle thing. Salam.
He's next, and then.
Oh, that's good.
The reason this camera was facing that direction was when we started this conversation, this was about race, and we had a couple of white supremacists on that side to talk about how they are all great.
That's all right, I like to be on that side.
Now listen, my friend here desperately tried to replace them to make it about Islam.
No, I said all the time I was replacing.
No, he didn't.
You were standing
I was addressing more all the time.
And you made it all about culture and religion, and now you replace them, and that's the joke.
So what was that? I don't get it.
You're a joke.
So you're saying
You're a joke. We had white people here who were talking about how superior they are. You took their place to make it about Islam.
No, I was addressing more. I got into a thing.
Sit down there.
You want to sit down? There's a seat there. Take a seat. Take a seat. Order. Take a seat. Take a seat.
All right.
Give me one of those seats there. Give me one of those. Give me wait, not yet.
My turn.
He's next to you.
I have the ball in my court. It's my turn.
The gentleman will be heard.
That's good. I like that.
The gentleman will be heard.
Earlier on, you talk about my brother. It's to you.
Hi, mate.
Earlier on, you talk about if he was adopted, his parents died or something, he gone to South Korea. Hypothetical. He learned the language. He eats the food. He does this. He does that. Are you gonna class him as Korean?
I'm going to class him as human. That's my point.
As human.
Human.
That's a very good point.
Okay. Sorry to do the same.
Okay.
Very
But
fair.
he's still a white guy.
What value is that distinction?
Yeah, because I am just about to say, if I was born in China, or let's say forget about me because I'm a bit light like you. If he was born in China, that doesn't mean he's Chinese. He's still a black
then the
man.
question is, what does Chinese
You're
mean?
Chinese if you've got a Chinese
Chinese
passport.
Oh
nationality.
no, it's not like this, my dear. We're gonna go deep now.
His nationality.
No,
could be Chinese.
Alex,
we're
let's go
going
deep.
But his
Let's go
legacy-
deep.
It's not
I
the
like
case.
it when it goes deep.
It's going deep.
To the root of the matter.
It's been
not
going
the
to
cake.
for the
Not
last
that way.
It's the ingredients that bake the cake.
Exactly.
It's the ingredients that bake the cake. I understand.
The root of the
Why I
matter, I
asked
should have
also.
said my language.
Welcome to Youth Club, everybody.
Okay.
I came across wrong.
He's got the ball.
Earlier on I heard what you said, but
He's
you
got the
said
ball.
that he's just human and not Korean or whatever. For me, I agreed with that. But if we're gonna say he's Korean because he learned the language, he eats the food, he speaks the language, he's not Korean. He cannot be. No, my dear, he cannot be Korean. I cannot be Chinese.
Yes, you can.
I can't.
On passport,
you can only
yes.
be Chinese by paper, but the paper doesn't mean nothing. It's only paper.
So what matters? Race? Is that the only thing that matters?
The ball,
With
please.
Chinese.
My race.
Yeah, is that
Yeah.
the only thing that matters?
For me, my race is more important than my nationality. My race, where I come from, who I am, who is Alex. No, it's not skin color. Skin color have nothing to do with this. Because I'm going to say to you, have you heard of a guy called Frank Bruno?
Yes.
He's a dark man.
Yes.
But they used to call him a coconut. You know why?
Well, I don't know.
Oh, you don't know? Okay, so that's another subject.
Because he acts white.
I am saying to you, for me, it's more of my, is where I come from, who I am. Because look, here am I, there is black people who comes from.
So was you not born in Britain?
No, I wasn't born. I was not born in Britain. No, I was born in St. Lucia by mistake.
Oh, I've been there.
I was good.
Don't say it. Let's hear him.
I was born in St. Lucia. I was born in the Caribbean by mistake.
Got the pitons.
By mistake. Because it's through slavery I was born in the Caribbean. It's through slavery. I'm going deep. I'm going at the bottom of the
Let's go
man.
deep. Let's go deep.
I'm going at the bottom of
Let's
the
go
man.
To the root of the matter.
To the root of
Which
it.
is the slavery was the root of the
You
matter.
understand?
I get it.
You want that part?
Yeah.
Okay.
You don't get my point.
No, I do.
I do.
They heard
Got you, Alex. Got you.
Alex agrees.
I'm going deep.
Excuse me.
Okay, you're going deep. You're going deep. We get it.
Excuse me. Would the honourable member for Castries, would the honourable member for Castries please pass this lady out?
Okay, go ahead.
No, you can bring it back. You can bring it back. Let's bring it back. You can bring it back.
You're five men that were sat here discussing whether you would allow your daughter to go naked or whether you would allow or force your daughter to wear a scarf, or whether you would, let her do this, or whether you would influence her on that. Oh, well, I'm not a delicate flower that needs guidance by someone else. You're not superior to me. No, as a person, as a woman, you're not superior to me as a man. And I do not need your dictatorship to tell me I can do that or I can't do that. Like, it's...
No, we were talking when the kids are young.
Yeah, you still know.
It's not about
No, but when our kids born, we don't send them to jungle, isn't it? We teach them.
So you mean you're morality? This is good, this is right.
Have you finished?
Lady, it's about parenthood.
When nobody
Let the lady finish. Let her finish.
The
lady will be heard.
You're not sat there deciding whether your son should also do that, whether your son should also be allowed to run around naked, or whether your son should also have to wear a scarf.
My daughter has
Lady,
freedom.
don't lady.
How do you want me to call? How do you want me to call?
Nothing. I'd like you to be quiet. So you don't have to.
Okay, there you go. Yeah. So you don't want to hear it?
You haven't got the ball.
One at a time, man. One at a
He's
time.
next.
You've completely bypassed the whole thing here. You're not sat here in a circle discussing whether your son, you need to tell your 14-year-old son that he needs to put this on or take that off or run over there.
But he's on the edge. You should do that.
Not yet.
Who told you I'm not yet? Sorry, again, the ball.
That's what I was asking.
That's the first example he brought was his 14-year-old girl.
How do you know what you tell?
But that was the point I was asking him before. That's what I was asking them. Is that a control by prejudice, or is it being a parent?
I'm on your side.
There's a difference between being a parent and your prejudices that will make you choose a way you want your child to go. That's the
It's
control
not about
bit.
your child, it was about your daughter.
You missed the
That
point.
was it.
Tell Mo, yeah, it was about.
Right, you made a point.
It wasn't about his son. It was about his
Good,
daughter.
good.
Men sat here saying
I shouldn't tell my daughter to do
Yeah, but
hijab.
men can be
Enforce
fathers.
your ideas, Mo.
But a man can be a father. But a man can be a father.
Okay, the ball. He has the ball. He has the ball.
I don't care
Hold
what
up the
you
ball.
have.
Hold up the ball so they can see you got the ball. Hold it up.
A
They
father
can see
can
you
have
got
a
the ball.
daughter. A
Right.
father can have a daughter.
He's got the ball.
Yeah, simple.
A father can have a daughter. That's
Right.
what it was
Then
about.
where's the issue then?
Anyway,
So why did you make that argument?
a father can have a daughter.
As much as you think you're right, I should have that
it's
equality.
not my dad's
Excuse
daughter
me.
who I
Tell him,
married.
you
Excuse
can
me.
tell him what to tell his daughter.
Wait, you haven't got the ball. You haven't got the ball
shouldn't have to
anymore.
ask my dad
Yes,
whether he
you made your
should.
point.
Lady, you don't have the
He
ball
should.
anymore. You don't have the ball anymore.
Right, you got the ball now.
Anyway, thank you. Let's thank you. Right, thank you very much.
Bye.
Thank you.
What about the answer?
No, we don't want to hear your answer. We don't want to hear your
I know
answer.
she doesn't.
All right,
Yeah, you're right.
all right.
Go on, right, go on.
I'm sorry, Pablo, she don't want to hear your answer.
I think I'm addressing four people in particular. I think I'm addressing Alex.
Yeah, go on. My brother, I can't hear you. Speak up.
Order, please.
Speak up, Rajiv. I can't hear you.
Order.
I'm sorry, it's my French tone. I'm addressing Alex, I believe. Pavlov as well, Will, and this gentleman here in terms of like clearing up what we constitute as race in particular. Like,
When you say
were
we,
talking
what do
about.
you mean we?
I'm just addressing the conversation that you were having.
Just we as
We had individual opinions.
Are you good?
Be careful of your English.
You were saying that we need to get to the roots of it, and I find it funny that we're all finding it really difficult to determine what is race when this is why Mr. IC3 is here in the first place. There's boards all over the place literally telling you why we have racial identities or racial allocations. These things, like you said, are a root of colonialism in particular. William brought up... Speak up.
He's got a problem with his phone.
William, no, I was saying, William brought up the, not the example, but the explanation that scientists don't even consider race as a legitimate standard of distinguishing people from one another. You were talking about skin earlier, right? And you were saying that, yeah, you were
I
talking
never talk about skin. I just said black, but I could change it and say African.
Yeah, absolutely. But
I could change it. Color, it don't mean nothing to me.
You were talking about the experience.
White South Africans are not. Oh, sorry. Give me the ball again when you finish.
That's right, that's right, that's right. Good.
You were talking about the experience, right? And you were saying that me in particular may not have the easiest time in China because of my skin color or my apparent skin color. And I absolutely agree. But that shouldn't take away from the fact that if Pavlov was grown in a Korean society, ate Korean food and spoke Korean language, he's most likely to marry a Korean woman. And they would teach their children what? Korean values. So that would make his lineage then forward Korean. So when you say that Pavlov is always white and will always be white, you need to take into consideration that there are certain angles that you can come from: skin color, I guess economical decisions, and politics, to be precise. There are certain people that I would love to bring up. Would you consider someone like Candace Owens as a black woman?
Okay, let me change
Would you
my...
consider... One second.
Give me the ball, please, man.
Oh, wait.
Give me that ball. Give me that ball, man. Because I can't speak.
No, you can. Wait. When your turn.
Let him address the
ball,
point.
man.
Wait.
Alex, patient.
I'll tell you
Alex.
what.
Give me the ball.
We all need balls here, I tell you. We all need balls here.
Then you can come and argue.
Let's go around. We all need balls of steel here. Right,
that's not for me.
You know, there was a guy, he would have said that it's because of your race that you're angry. earlier on.
I was not talking about color. No,
I know. Why
why
didn't say that?
Make your
as a white
point.
man,
Make
but there
your
is
point.
nothing.
Don't ask. If you ask them, they start talking. Make your point.
There is nothing as a white man and a
Alex,
black
you'll
man.
get the
I'm sorry.
Okay.
There is
That's what I'm trying to get at.
European,
Okay, good.
Caucasian.
Let the gentleman.
That's what I'm getting at.
Let's change
Okay,
it.
good. Right. This is what I'm getting at. There are skin colors, there are cultural differences, and there are experiences, right? We need to make sure to take into consideration a multitude of these before we allocate someone as black, white, etc. Because would you consider someone like Candace Owens, Jesse Lee Peterson, or the black Republicans that support Trump, would you consider them black?
Yes.
Would you consider them?
Yeah. I'd say
Yeah.
savvy black.
Let me
Candace Owens is black.
Yeah, they are black.
Candace Owens,
Give me
pick
2
up.
seconds. Give me 2 seconds. Most of the black community would disagree with you. Would you consider Sajid?
Because they're not
Would you
understanding what she's saying.
consider Sajid David as someone who is Asian?
Yes.
Most of the Asian community wouldn't agree with you
would
because
say
he
yes.
acts out of interest of the Asian community. Candace Owens and Jesse Lee Peterson act out of interest of the black community, putting economics against the black people. So when you say that it's supposedly savvy black, give me 2 seconds. Give me 2 seconds. When we can have a discussion. We can have a discussion on Candace Owens, and I hope you brought your receipts because you're definitely going to get schooled on this one. When we talk about the economics, and we talk about the economics, and we talk about the situation that African Americans have been through, these are people who routinely deny it because they're political pundits. They get paid. They don't go on debates looking for people who are capable of debating them. They look for people who are capable of falling down against their arguments. So when you talk about people who are politically savvy or ethnically savvy, please make sure you come with your receipts. So when we're talking about experience, you need to be very careful to listen to what William is saying, right? Because most scientists agree race doesn't exist. It's something that we have allocated as a product of or result of colonial institutions. Tribalism.
Yeah.
It's one of the main key components that drive us. Regardless, do you really think
So
the
what's
whole?
your tribe?
Give me 2 seconds. Do you really think the whole
What's
of?
your tribe?
1 second. Do you really
What
think?
is your tribe?
As William would say, humanity. That's my tribe.
Thank you.
So when we talk about the African diaspora, right? When we talk about the African diaspora, do you really think they're all monolithically black? Or,
You know, crazy people.
Or are there tribes?
When I have black men like you talking like this, is shit you talking.
Wait for the ball.
You crazy.
It's okay, bro.
You look crazy people. Crazy people. Are they not crazy? You look
you're a
black.
good
You look
man.
crazy. Forget
down.
about black. Let me don't bring color into that.
wait,
You
wait.
look African people. Are nuts.
Wait for the ball.
You lot are nuts, man.
This is an advert
I
for
can't
St. Lucia, holidays in St. Lucia. You can go stay at the Armand Beach Club. It's been a very beautiful place.
Have
you finished?
Lick us, man.
But just to finish off.
Yeah. But I just make a point.
Just to finish up. If we're gonna continue this argument on very narrow spectrum of what race is in particular, then we're not gonna get anywhere. But William seems to be leading the conversation right now as to what we should actually allocate and what we should consider, and I guess fundamentally start debating what race is about. So this whole thing of choosing whether or not it's skin color 1 minute, economics the other, it's not going to help. You need to have a stable platform in which everyone can have a discussion on, not something that just privileges yourself in a discussion. That's it.
Okay, good. Right.
Thank you. Who's next?
Hello.
No, you're next. You're next.
I would like to make a point in relation to what you say. The fact that you say that we're all the same. No, we know the same. I mean, I'm originally. We know the same, and what we need to do is respect each other's difference, because there is differences there. So that's what we need to do. But we know, because even scientists content that blacks and whites, they know the same, in the sense that black is dominant and white is recessive. So let's know, what we need to do is respect each other's differences and live in a peaceful way. Yes, that's all I want to say.
Okay, well, I agree with that. Fair enough. Let me respond to that a wee bit.
After Pablo.
Okay.
No, just respond.
Do you want to elaborate?
Cool.
Let's
go.
William
Just
first.
with what you're saying, well, if that's your stance, then we probably more or less agree. Like, of course, there are genetic differences. That's why we actually look different. But my whole philosophical argument is that I should treat you the same as I treat him, as I treat him, as I treat him.
I concur with that.
Unless they have, unless their personalities don't work with mine, we have a personal conflict. But it shouldn't be about what you were born as.
I totally
That's
agree
my
with
only
that.
stance.
Yeah, yeah.
Right, fair play, bro. Okay.
Fair point.
Before I start, I just find it interesting how there's white people and black people who have very, very different views on these specific things. Some of them think there is no race. Some of them think there is very specific, that like race is very important. And it's not like blacks think this, whites think this, or this person thinks that because of the race. It's a diverse opinion in those terms. Now, my opinion, again, let's come back to race. Let's not go to anything else for now. Is that there is race, but it's not that important. I mean, obviously we can see basic differences between each other. We can see cosmetic differences, physical differences. The shape of the nose, the shape of the lips, the shape of the eyes, the color. Color is also part of it, The shape of hair itself, how much hair we have, that's also part of race. Many, many, many different things. But it's part of race, and race is engraved in our genetics. Now, what is race? Again, let's go back to the thing. What is race? Race is the adaptation of a human to the environment. That's basically what it is. The most basic explanation, that's how humans adapt to the surrounding environment.
Can I ask you something then?
Okay, ask me something.
Then if you say that, let's say a certain race adapts in a certain land, and they become much more, a bit advanced or a bit powerful, is it okay to go to another civilization, another race, which is less developed and where they can dictate on them? Is it okay?
That's politics. You have no control of that.
No, I'm saying, is it okay?
Exactly.
No, is it okay or not?
Listen,
Of course it's not, and everybody knows
Wait,
that.
lady.
Yeah.
You see, I'll try to be nice this time. I won't immediately go emotional. Look, this is the fake kind of question. Sorry, but I have to say, this is the fake kind of question. Because you're bringing morality into it. Morality has nothing to do with whether they will do it or not. If people can do it, they will do it.
No, but in reality, we live according to morality.
Yeah, but we are the sum of our legacies. Our legacies are everything.
You think the
Where
world
we're
functions
born,
according to
where we
this
grow up,
misshapen idea of morality?
No,
in
reality
your head?
at the moment
No,
in
stop interrupting.
in Britain we have laws, rules and regulations.
But we
This is
are
why
our
the
legacy.
conversation isn't going anywhere.
If I was born
No
in Saudi
interrupting,
Arabia,
no
I'd be
interrupting, please.
Because I'm trying to speak and you keep interrupting.
Yeah.
Based on emotion.
Make your point, crisp.
Yeah, crisp and quick
point.
now, Pat.
Yeah.
Morality
Quick.
has nothing to
Too
do
slow.
with it. It's always like that survival of the fittest. Like the Arabs conquered because they could. The whites conquered because they could. The Chinese conquered because they could. The Mongolians conquered because they could. It has nothing to do with morality. Carry on.
Fair.
Let's keep going.
My point.
Just
You're
to,
next.
You're bringing morality.
You're disagreeing with the discussion.
more on a semantic review, not necessarily your point in particular, because I think your point was completely solid. But I disagree with this gentleman in particular.
Which one?
I guess this gentleman just not taking a seat. Okay. With establishing the fact that
Still angry.
Anyone want to join?
Alex, still.
he's always going to be upset, man. He knows little. Empty barrel make no noise. Yeah, I'm going to disagree with you in particular, and I would ask you to bring up your scientific supposed evidence as to how races are completely different, and these differences are set in stone because there's a difference between men and women, right? And that difference can never really be changed on a hormonal level, but sometimes on a physical level. But mostly before the modern era and surgery, it was not able to be changed, right? But we know that we can adapt and change our skin color. We know that, right? So when you say that races exist, I have to ask, what studies are you supposedly referring to that I haven't seen? Because I've seen the studies that are according to races, etc. When Will talks about, and Pavlov was talking about the differences in nose, the differences in the eyes, etc. He's talking specifically about phenotype. That is the scientific semantic of the differences between like superficial features. That has nothing to do with race at all. Because if we look at the, I believe it's called the Indo-Rwandan tribes, there's two different African tribes, right?
Hutus
the
and
Bantus,
Tutsis.
Hutu and Tutsis, right? Now the difference that split them up is because the Belgian, is it the Belgians?
Yes.
Assigned to one of them, right?
Because of just a
assigned to
slight
one of them,
difference in
exactly. because of slight phenotype, they assign to them a whiter race. If you say that races are completely different, you can't assign someone a different race like fluidly like that. So I would ask you, when people say I've read science or whatever, right? Bring your evidence. Don't just say it because you think that science is gonna like supposedly like debate your point for you. I read the papers as well. So bring your evidence. What studies have you read that fundamentally say that races are different and they can't mix in between, or there's no bridges between them?
I have to start with myself.
No, sorry, no.
Let me answer that. Let me answer that.
Let ladies. Take a seat and wait for the ball. Take a seat. You're next.
Would you like this episode? I was wondering while I was watching all this, if we were in a completely dark room now, what would the discussion be like?
That's very, well,
Well,
we'll
you
probably
could kind
pick it
of
up by
tell
our
by the
voices.
No, we cannot
actually.
ask hypothetical questions. We live
can
in
ask.
we live in reality.
Her concept is kind of
No, it's an
obvious.
interesting point.
If he took away,
Let's talk about reality, the injustice, the prejudice.
We couldn't see everyone.
Okay,
It happens
she hasn't
in
finished.
everyday life.
He has not finished.
Guys, she hasn't finished. If we took away all of the physical
Yes,
things, sorry, go ahead. Respect.
Talking about differences, the differences are obvious. Your eyes tell you the differences, but if you stop there, you never connect as human beings. And behind your differences and my differences is a lot of humanity that might not see the light of day with each other because we stop at the differences. Last night I was at a meeting in London, Alcoholics Anonymous. I'm not going to talk about that, but what I'm saying is it's like it's a dark room because everybody talks from the heart about what they've got in common. In fact, if they're sat behind you, you don't know what colour they are. And it's full of people going, shit man, that's me, I've done that. Absolutely. God, I felt like that. God, you. In fact, one of the things we say is you've spoken for me tonight, mate.
So are we better to get to the
Do you know
common
what I mean?
denominator? The common denominator is our humanity.
Right.
That's the
Yeah.
common denominator.
That's
That's it. The common denominator is we're all humans. Is
that your
point?
We agree on, don't we?
So then why do we do have injustice in the society?
For the reasons we've just been discussing for the last 2.5 hours.
So it's not working then?
But we have the common...
There's more.
Because we have a common
denominator.
Has she
There
finished?
needs to be,
Thank you.
Right?
there needs
Yes.
to be more of an opportunity,
I
I
agree.
think, for us to connect as human beings, regardless of what we look like. In this country, it's too separate.
But also, if you go common denominator, I'm sure we could find something that you and I have the same agreement on or something as well. But the ultimate thing is we're human beings. Even Pablo and I are human beings together.
Yes, what?
The common denominator is we're human beings. So we're always going to agree that. And we're always going to get over-prejudiced because of that.
So then it's okay then to get mixed then? It's okay then?
So I have a question.
To get mixed?
Make your point.
Thank you.
Immigration is okay.
Thank you.
I'm just
Have you made
noticing
your
that.
point?
Look, okay, I want to
Whoa, wait.
Immigration okay.
You're going to make your
We
point.
agree, yeah?
What is the point, Scott?
My point.
Excuse me. No. Sorry, sir.
Would the honourable member, please, for Helmand Province, please behave yourself?
I think my final point is, I think if you are white now in this country, you are not just in danger. I think that moment's gone. We've lost our humanity. We're dehumanised. I'm nothing but a racist, and nothing. I can't be proud of my ancestry at all anymore. Smash the statues, kill the royal family. You're white and you'll always be white. I've had enough of it. I'm a human, and I like what I've heard today. For example, you were born this colour, you were born that colour. We can't
encouraging violence.
do anything about
Let her
that.
finish.
They're finished, then you can have your say.
So what I'm saying is, if we do want to connect on a human level, we've got to go beyond colour, no matter whether you're in the wrong, in the right, whether you've got more points for that, more points for this. We've got to get back to connecting.
Right, can I ask you a question?
No, but
What's
you're
your
just
solution?
contradicting
And I'm saying that because
No. This lady wants to speak.
saying that
I got a
because
question.
Yeah.
I
That's the solution. Right. Okay, he's next.
We should connect as a human
final
level.
point
No. That's enough. That's enough. Anybody else? Do you want to speak? Right. Wait. He's next.
This guy's showing the low, man.
Right. He's passionate. Yeah. Go on.
Afghan myself. skin color is the best. I want to be.
The ball off anybody else.
Right, so I have a question.
Being a certain allocation, there's an automatic yield. So I think we need to.
Excuse me.
I thought we'll have right, cool. So let's go. I want to connect this. I want to connect you two guys because I didn't understand your objection to what he said, or maybe I didn't understand what you said. I'm not sure. Because I'm not sure.
Repeat what I said.
No, sorry. Let me ask my question first, and then we'll get to it. Right. So I said one thing you said that I didn't quite. Just stop now.
Alex.
So
that's the
you said I didn't understand your objection. So could you explain that a wee bit more? And you said that genetics, they can't be crossed or they can't be mixed or something. Is something I didn't understand in there, because what he said, I thought I agreed with it, and what you said before he spoke, I agreed with that too. So I don't see where the objection is.
Because he's saying there is no race, and the other guy said there is race.
No, well, there's phenotypic differences.
I said there's
from
no
the DNA.
She said that there's no difference. And
You have to wait for
there
the
is
ball.
difference.
You have to wait for the
respect each other.
Right, you're next.
I'm being democratic. I'll wait.
Yeah,
I'll wait.
right, okay. You want to say something?
Yeah, there's two things I want to say. Firstly, I'd like to address you. I think there are a lot of white people in this country feeling guilty. I don't think they should feel guilty. As a white person, I think you should understand that there was a lot of things done wrong by our ancestors, but not necessarily yours, not necessarily mine, the elite's ancestors. And we have done a lot collectively in this country to try and help race relations to go smoothly. And it's about time that ordinary citizens did get a little bit of respect for that, and I do. But people like me and you, ordinary, not people that are in positions of power, and I mean black as well as white, not people that are telling us what we should think of each other. I think we should all try to give each other a little bit of leeway. And also, I don't think that everything has been lost. Addressing the stigma here, I don't think everything's been lost. If everything's been lost in this country, how come we've got a great big group of people standing here now, all willing to listen to each other and try and discuss it?
I never said that.
You did earlier. You said why has everything gone wrong then?
You didn't say that, man. I remember.
Wrong about wrong, but not about good stuff. There are good stuff in the Western society. There are bad stuff in the society.
Simple point. Okay, and my last point is to all the separatists, and I mean all the separatists, the ones that say, oh, we've got to have black nationalism and we've got to have white nationalism and all this rubbish, right? I've been in a very happy marriage, right, with a black man for many, many years. We've got mixed race children, right? There's no difference between white men and black men. Right? It's not because black men have got bigger cocks. It's not because.
This is their argument. That's intellectual argument.
I'm being serious.
Language, lady, language.
It's not because this is what people say. This is what people say.
Just like that, the conversation derailed.
It's not because white men are weaker. It's not. It's none of these silly insults that everyone is throwing at each other all the time. You need to understand each other and start talking to each other. That's what you need to do.
But I think we need the humanity is the common denominator. Now, the way I was brought up in a secular.
I apologise.
Hang on.
At the end of the day,
I was brought up in a secular Jewish family, right? And as a secular Jewish family from the East End of London, and all of that secular Jewish family, we have integrated with so many different races and creeds of everything. I've travelled to the Caribbean, Africa, I've been all over Arabia and everywhere. The issue is education. I had a Christian upbringing and a Jewish upbringing, right? Christian schooling and a Jewish upbringing, okay? At the end of the day, what has come to me is I can sit like this, we can disagree, but we can laugh at the end, because these are all human beings, that's my common denominator. I have no prejudice against him any more than I have against him. So the issue is that if we treat each other as human beings, and that's what we've got to teach our children from children, then you're going to have a much better society. But the problem is that we don't. That's what goes on in reality.
Alright, cool. Stop. Before they get subverted. Go.
New speaker.
I like being diplomatic. I like being
Hi, are we with us?
Hold it.
My point is really quick.
Hold it. No, wait. You've got the ball. Wait. Now, you want to give way to the new speaker? Right. So the new speaker, then you. Right.
So for the benefit of anyone who's new here, we were just listening in. I'm agreeing with points all over the place, but I'm not actually sure what the debate is. Can someone clear me up what the two sides of the debate are and what we're arguing about?
Yeah. What we start off is race, ethnicity, and culture, and what are the values of that?
And religion. Oh, okay. So just a general discussion.
And religion. Yeah.
Okay.
Sorry. So I missed his point because Mo turned up.
Yeah. He just wants to know what the discussion.
But this guy's been waiting.
I missed what he said.
Sorry.
Freedom, morality.
I'm blaming Mo for it.
It's about freedom, morality, freedom of speech, freedom of religion, secular society.
Identity politics.
Yep. Okay.
No, he's first.
So I got 2 points to address. 2 points to address. So I'll address Joel's point with the gentleman in particular. My initial statement was to basically round the conversation on what we define as race in particular. The gentleman was making it clear that he believed that because of different phenotypes that there are different races. From what I know,
wait, you'll get the ball. You'll get the ball again after. You'll get the ball after.
Brilliant. Okay, brilliant. So I've asked the gentleman to bring something a little bit more substantial than phenotypes, because from what I've read and from what I know, phenotypes can change over a generation with mixing different climates and different weather. I know this in particular. So if you're basing your argument on race as a foundation, on phenotypical features or anything superficial, then unfortunately your argument is not valid. You didn't present anything else. So I'm asking you to present something else. If you can present something else, we'll have a discussion upon what you believe race is then. But from what I was talking about with William, I was saying that the humanity, as this woman here over here was saying, and this other woman is here was saying, the humanity is where we stand at different odds. And it just happens that our humanity seems to align into different camps because of our similarities with different phenotypes, etc. But that does not make us different races at all. It just makes us phenotypically different. That's what I was saying. So I want to address what the lady said over there, because I believe she grounded this whole argument when it comes to, I guess, the differences we're all talking about. The differences everyone seems to espouse is the phenotypical differences, the superficial differences. And no one has really talked about the deeper innate politics. No one has really talked about the ethos of different races or the end goal of different races. That's what is the most important, and that's what, I guess, revolutionizes humanity generally. But we're all fixed on who has the bigger nose, who has the darker skin, etc., whatever, blah, blah, blah. There's a gentleman who has by the name... I ain't got my measuring stick out, but there's a gentleman called Colin. You may know him, and he's got the book basically representing transgenders and the transgender argument. For me personally, I believe that you should be able to allocate your, I guess, your different gender if you believe that's your psychological kind of like allegation. I would ask anyone in particular who doesn't believe in that, why do you call me black? Does this look like black skin to you? This is brown skin. This is brown skin.
But then I'm not white.
Why do you call people white?
Yeah, I can answer that.
You understand?
Yeah, I understand. I'm red.
So the question
I'm Mexican, come on, I understand the question.
So
He won't be much longer, but breakfast is available.
So what I'm trying to say is when we get into these conversations, we get so caught up on the really kind of like the minute stupidity in different phenotypes, gender, etc. We don't really look at the deeper innate humanity.
And give us some of the more deep points that'd be really interesting.
Absolutely. And I just wanted to the last point. For me personally, I understand where you're coming from in terms of the idea that white people as a collective are made to feel guilty and there's this narrative that's portrayed, etc., blah, blah, blah. But for me personally, the only reason I can't get behind that kind of narrative is because I routinely ask people who are of that narrative, what is it that they're proud about their culture? I can lay more things that white people should be fundamentally proud of and who they should be proud of than most average Brits. And that's because education is not racialized, right? And where I come from is an educational point of view. That's where, in particular, when I feel like people talk about whites shouldn't be made guilty, they should talk about the fact that whites have helped to educate a good mass of people. But you never hear that. You never hear that from people who say that they don't want to feel guilty about their culture. So when you come with this debate and you come with this point, you need to come with legitimate legitimate foundations as to why you feel the obligation and the entitlement to feel any kind of pride as anyone of any race should. Not just for the fact that...
I'm going to study that.
Absolutely.
For myself.
Not just for the fact that... Not just for the fact that you are white, that's it. I would say this to a black person. I would say that to a black person.
Okay, you're going a bit long now.
I also
okay,
have something to say.
It's too long.
Just let the guy answer and I'll speak after him. Just
right, you want to give way? You want to give way?
No, I'm after him. Just, he will quickly answer, then I speak.
Order, please. Order.
Brother, you said that you want scientific proven evidence as to what I say, right?
I want some academia.
Right. I'll give you somebody, and obviously you haven't been doing your homework in relation to that matter. You need to check Dr. Frances Cress Wilson. She's been doing genetics for 40 plus years, and she's contenting that is the case. And more scientists out there anyway. It's just you that probably you have no study that side of things.
Again,
and
you completely
tell me that's the case. No, you need to check that.
Okay.
Dr. Frances Cress Wilson.
Okay.
Check it out.
Again, you've come with a nuanced point. That's it. You haven't given me something that fundamentally and distinctively.
No. You personally, you need to
for evidence. He's giving you a name.
I give you the name. Sources. Go and look at that source.
He doesn't even know what the genetics mean.
I don't know what.
When he says different genetics, when you say different genetics, what do you mean?
What I mean?
What do you mean by different genetics?
Genetically, we're different, meaning that our physical composition is different.
Okay. Does everyone have the same?
No.
Okay, yeah.
You first, and then it's your speaker.
Oh!
Good. Right, good. You go.
Okay, guys, listen, guys.
Right.
I don't want to derail the conversation too much, but I'll have to address something. Okay. So Rajiv, as far as I understand, you see, guys, wait. As far as I understand, you see race as something trivial, something unimportant, right? This doesn't really go in hand with what you said the other day about the reparations.
It does, but no.
How?
I can explain to you.
Just make your point.
How does it function?
Make your
Do you want me to
point.
explain?
I mean, the other day he was defending reparations, and today he's saying race is not important. Plus, race has been changing. People have been interbreeding, so there aren't any people purely in need of reparations. So how does that function?
Okay. Right, wait. You speak.
Yeah, so just quickly on this debate, in terms of genetic differences, according to racial groups, there's about 6.6667% genetic differences within racial groups, which is higher than between racial groups, or what we classify as racial groups. So between me and another white person, there's going to be more genetic difference than between me and a black person.
And even more between you and the black person.
No, less. That's the point that I'm making. Yeah, right. There is less genetic differences between me and someone from a different racial category. So the case for a biogenetic model of race is that's the study. That's
how did they get to that conclusion?
I can find you the study and show you the specific research.
Okay, bring it back next week. Great.
And then the other point was on this. I mean, I don't know. There's a paper called "The Social Construction of Race" by someone called Alison Smedley. The point that she makes is that race was invented in the 19th century in order to stratify and oppress social classes. It's not a biogenetic reality. So even if you're like someone like the two of I are, who's saying there is no biological reality of race, the entire point is that there's been a social construction of race. So people have been treated differently, and so people are still members of different groups in terms of the way that they're treated. So you can still identify people to give reparations to, while concurrently doing away with the notion of race as anything genetic. So a lot of people, and she says, the goal of being anti-racist eventually is to be anti-race, is to get rid of these ideas of race. But while we still live in a society that is disseminated systemically racist, we do need to recognise that certain people are disadvantaged in certain
This
ways.
society is racist.
Can I give you?
Yeah.
This society is racist.
Yes.
Where's the racism in this society?
I can give you a study if you want.
Yeah, I don't think you've studied.
I can give you a study.
I was replying to Pablo. Sorry, my bad. Okay.
Was you?
Go ahead. I see three. Thank you, gentlemen, for laying the foundation of what I need to answer to Pablo. Pablo will remember the other day when I was speaking about reparations, I did my best to take out race out of the equation completely. The only reason that race was brought into it is because the group is African, are they not? Brilliant. So my point was that from a legal standpoint, all men are equal, regardless of race. They could have been yellow, they could have been brown, they could have been gold, pixie-colored, rainbow. It doesn't matter, right? The idea is that there were men who were not treated equally to other men. The reason being because of race. So whether or not, right, their ancestors are now white, whether or not their ancestors are now pink, there was a race or a group of people allocated in the past who did not get the constitutional treatment that all other Americans did. So from a legal standpoint, they are still owed reparations. What does this have to do with race? When I made it quite clear that race had nothing to do with my argument.
Okay. Wait.
Oh, okay, cool. There's a couple of things. So we talked about this, I think, last week as well, but I raised a point that I never got an answer to. I think it was a pretty good point, so I'm probably going to have to raise it again. Okay, but there's two things to say. The first thing is about, you're saying that all men are equal because of the Constitution, so we're talking about the United States in particular, right?
Absolutely.
I mean, well, while personally I think that all men are equal, all people should be equal and should be treated the same. When I look at historically, that wasn't that wasn't the atmosphere that it was founded on. They didn't view a lot of men with the same rights, never mind if they were from Africa or anywhere else. They needed to be landed. They needed to be relatively wealthy. So they said all men are equal, but they were talking about themselves. They weren't talking about the people they enslaved. So I would say that invalidates your argument from the historical standpoint. I think.
Because the semantics were created by them. Whether or not they made the wrong semantic by saying all men are equal. Doesn't matter. It says all men are equal. It doesn't say men, it says all men are equal. That semantically by itself grounds their own argument. So the idea that my argument is flawed because certain people only consider themselves as men is even completely contradictory to the point of what they knew about these men that they were enslaving. They knew the men they were enslaving were empowered people. They knew the men they were enslaving were capable individuals. That's why they took them as slaves. So the idea that they didn't see them as equal goes against completely the point of my kind of like taking away the races and making it a legal point in particular.
So according to you, they were not following their own rules.
Absolutely.
That makes no sense.
Okay, well the second point to raise about this idea,
That's what hypocrisy means.
About reparations, like I said the last time, and I want to see what answer you can give or anybody else can give, is if you start demanding reparations for actions that were done in the past.
I answered this last time. I did answer this answer.
I don't think it occurred.
I really don't want to go back into this I can't even say the word. This formula that I keep explaining. If you can go back historically...
No, I haven't finished my question. I know what you're about to answer, but it's not the question I'm asking. The question I'm asking is, why, in theory, why could you not go throughout the eons and try and trace back the times when certain people have been wronged by certain groups? Because every group's been warring against every group, and you could therefore say, why could the Germans could demand reparations from the French for the Treaty of Versailles, or people could demand reparations for the Ottoman Empire.
Okay.
Do you understand?
So once again, that's exactly what I knew you were going to say, and I will say it once again. If you can go back historically and prove that within their own law, constitutions, and legislations, they were acting out of illegality, then you have an argument and you have a basis for reparations for different communities, different societies, and different historical events. You haven't presented me anything of the sort. I have specifically presented legality because it distinguishes and separates.
The legality of the past, my friend.
So that again,
legality of the
it was
past.
legal to buy slaves.
Where's the what's the word when something cannot be brought years after? What's the word of it?
Yeah, that's the word we're thinking about too. You can't bring it from the
statutory. No, that's not the statutory.
The statute of limitations.
Statute of limitation. Where's the statute of limitations on historical payments of damage or payments of loss of earnings? Where's the historical strategy? So this is exactly what I'm saying. I brought you a formula, right, that makes sense with our current legal practice. If someone robbed someone, whether it was 70 years ago, right, they can prove a loss of earnings and they can legally take them to court to reclaim that. That's how the Jewish managed to get reparations for the Holocaust in Nazi Germany. That's how it worked. That's the module I am following. So please tell me, if you've got any legitimate limitations, present them.
Man, the Jews got reparations immediately after World War II.
Yeah,
immediately. That's the
well,
key.
I already made my point. I already made my point of that. They did not view their slaves as equal.
But this is again the point that I'm addressing.
Another example, somebody getting
This is the point I'm
reparations hundreds of years after the perpetual.
I don't have to. I don't have to. No, I don't.
Kind of do.
No, I don't. That's because that's the standard you're setting, Pablo. No one seems to set that problem. No, because you've set that on your own standards. Legally. That's not the standards that they
about practicality, not about legality.
Whether or not it's practical in your head.
It just
make your point.
Okay, no worries.
Yeah.
All right.
Because there's another speaker here.
So, again, William, I've addressed the formula. The formula is a formula that's been used historically, right? With the Jews and Nazi Germany.
That wasn't slavery and equal rights. It's not the
No,
same
it's a loss of
concept.
earnings, loss of property, etc. That was a loss, and it was proven, right? That's a formula that works. It's a formula that can be applied because they can prove a loss of earnings, a loss of money, a loss of labor, right? Now, you bring me limitations, I will address them. I've always addressed your limitations. Now, with you guys, you're saying that what stops you from going hundreds and so years, blah, 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 blah. I haven't set statute of limitation. I haven't set that, but I've given you a criteria, right? A criteria of being able to prove that there was a loss of X, Y, and Z. And if you can go back and trace that, then you have your grounds for supposed reparations.
Now,
well, we
do
for the
African
That's it.
Americans.
Drag it on now. Drag it on. Sorry. Next speaker. Next speaker.
Bring me the proof here. I'll change my mind.
I think it's a very strong point that this gentleman makes.
Policeman! It's some club of... Can you arrest this guy, please? What?
No, police officer.
You're still upset?
I think it's a very strong point that he makes during historical comparisons of other reparative treaties that
He only
have
makes
made,
the comparison
that
to
have
the
made
Jews.
clear legal cases, and I would just want to argue on top of that, in terms of the specific reparations that we're discussing, this argument that you're making that, well, so many people have been treated badly by so many different groups, why is this so important? If you just simply have to look at the state of America specifically, let alone looking at the entire world, people's families intergenerationally have been destroyed by this legacy. There's genetic evidence that there is epigenetic DNA scarring from slavery and from the other It's not just social.
Okay, so race does matter.
I'm not
It goes against your
I'm not saying it was a good thing, man.
Yeah, it goes against
Don't get me wrong. Don't get me wrong.
And I also think, like the point that I made earlier, there's no historical reference to anything like race before the 19th century, before America, before the start of slavery.
What are you talking about? What are you talking about?
There's no reference.
Race has always been
This is
recorded.
Let him finish.
Bro.
Let him finish his point.
There is no reference to anything such as a specific race. If you look through any of the historical documents, there's slight claims to different groups, different geographic groups, different ethnic groups with different cultures. But in terms of talking about black people, white people, that didn't exist until slavery, until America. So the reparations are for the entire construction of race, let alone the oppression and economic social.
was actually an innovation.
With that word, you proved to me that you did not study any history at all. Because you can laugh. I like that you laugh, because you should cry now by the little information that you have about history. There have been records and records and records of different people's races throughout history. And if you're looking for the specific word race, then I guess you are right, because the specific definition of the word race we have now, yeah, it is pretty recent. But different qualities in different people have been noticed since the beginning of civilization. You can even see in a, in a drawing, in papyrus, in an Egyptian drawing, they say, like it's written there, and there's a picture. This is an Assyrian, this is a Mesopotamian, this is a Nubian, and this is an Egyptian, and all of them, have different qualities of face, different colors, different clothes, again reflecting their culture.
That is observation.
Nobody was observing those
Well,
things.
he's saying there is no proof that people had any notion of
he
race.
said that there was
that's
no
what he said.
proof of
That is what
racist
he said.
practice. There was no proof of racist practice within the politics. Exactly. There was no root of this. There was no legislation
I can
preventing
disprove
certain
that
people.
too. I can disprove that too. I can
Make your point.
I can disprove that too.
Make your point. Make your point.
I can disprove that too.
Then next speaker.
Look it up. One of the Pontic kings, Mithridates, when he was in war with the Romans, he exterminated all the Latins, all the Romans from Small Asia, from Turkey. He specifically targeted them to kill them and to remove all Roman influence in his country. It's a very well-known historical fact. If you don't know about it, I'm sorry, bro, but you need to go back to the history books. No, I like it. You're a positive guy. I'm sure that you will not take this the wrong way. So you will go for it, and you will study it, and you will see that people have been killing each other based on race. Wait.
Is that university?
Yeah, what course? Gender studies. Gender studies.
Bro, you can tell the line of thought by the fact that gender studies.
Okay,
guys,
next speaker.
You can look it up.
Yeah, okay, you've made your point. We got your point. We've got your point. Good. We got your point. Your point's good. Okay. Okay, you're not yet. After this lady here, then you.
During Babylonian times, how was people living?
You can speak.
If you want another example.
Wait.
Okay. I can give you hundreds of examples.
Let this lady
right
speak.
Now.
Yo, I free. Where's the strong arm? Where's the strong arm for you? Come on.
He just told me to.
Look,
stop.
wait. Look, the lady here's got the ball. The ball. Watch the ball.
Okay, go ahead, girl.
No. It's picking up on the camera.
Girl power. Go
Yeah.
ahead.
Okay.
Speak up.
I can't.
You're upset, man. It's okay. It's okay. You're all
right.
Do you think then?
This lady.
Come take over everything from your
Come, man, say it straight. Man, don't listen to BBC. Man, don't listen to ITV. Listen. Man, don't listen to BBC. Man, don't listen to
Oh, praise be to Allah, Lord of the world. Oh, praise be to Allah on this day. So I'm back again, yet another Sunday on this nice warm day, and it is by Allah's will that we have this nice beautiful weather, and it is a sign from our Lord.